when a mafia boss adopts his enemy's son. 6 months pregnant. A stray bullet whizzes past your head, and a handshake changes everything forever. I am Leora Vale, an anonymous maid abandoned by her lover when she was heavily pregnant. I didn't know that bastard had stolen $500,000 from the most dangerous man in America. Even less did I know that this very boss would be the one holding my hand in the delivery room, protecting my child as his own flesh and blood. This is the story of how one brutal night turned into unbelievable love. Stay until the end. Hit like. And comment the name of the city you're watching in. I want to know how far this story has come. Rain hammered the streets like fists against concrete. November in the city always felt apocalyptic. Gray sky bleeding into grayer buildings, everything drenched and miserable. Leora Vale pushed her cleaning cart down the service corridor of the Velmora Grand Hotel with her head down and her body aching in places she didn't know could ache. 6 months pregnant, and the uniform still didn't fit right. The fabric pulled tight across her belly no matter how she adjusted it. She'd given up trying to hide it weeks ago. Her feet screamed with every step. Cheap shoes on marble floors for 10 hours straight. The kind of pain that made you wonder if you'd ever walk normal again. But she couldn't stop, couldn't slow down. Bills didn't care that her back felt like it was splitting in half. Her landlord didn't give a damn that she could barely stand. And the baby inside her sure as hell wasn't going to feed itself. Adrian's face flashed through her mind and she shoved it down hard. Not now, not ever again if she could help it. 6 months since he'd looked her in the eye and said he needed time to think. 3 days later, his phone was disconnected, his apartment cleaned out. Gone like smoke. She'd cried for 2 weeks straight. Then she stopped. Crying didn't pay rent. The ballroom doors ahead spilled golden light across the hallway. Some corporate gala. Rich people in expensive clothes pretending the world outside didn't exist. Leora had cleaned up after 100 events just like it. Champagne glasses left everywhere, food wasted on tables, lipstick stains on cloth napkins that cost more than her weekly paycheck. She'd learned not to look too close. Looking made you angry, and anger made you careless, and careless got you fired. She was reaching for the service door when the air changed. It wasn't something she could explain, just a feeling, a shift. Like the moment before lightning strikes when every hair on your body stands up. She froze with her hand on the door handle. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Moving fast but controlled. Military precision. She'd grown up in a neighborhood where you learned to recognize trouble by the sound it made walking toward you. This was that sound. Leora turned slowly. 5 men emerged from the ballroom. No. 4 men surrounding one. They moved like planets orbiting a sun. Dark suits, sharp eyes, hands hovering near their waistbands in a way that made her stomach drop. And in the center was him. Lucien Moretti. She knew the name. Everyone in the city knew the name even if they pretended not to. He owned half the real estate downtown. Casinos, restaurants, import businesses that probably imported a hell of a lot more than wine and furniture. The kind of man who smiled for charity photos while bodies disappeared into rivers. Rumor and fact blurred together around him until nobody knew where one ended and the other began. He was tall, broad-shouldered in a way the tailored black suit somehow made more threatening instead of less. Dark hair swept back from a face that would have been handsome if it wasn't so hard. Sharp jaw, straight nose. And eyes, Jesus, his eyes, black as oil and twice as cold. A scar cut through his left eyebrow. Another traced his jawline, marks that said he'd survived things that killed other men. His gaze swept the corridor like a searchlight and stopped on her. Leora's breath caught. She couldn't move, couldn't look away. His eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that felt physical, like he was reaching inside her chest and counting her heartbeats. 3 seconds. 5. 10. Nobody had looked at her like that in months. Like she existed, like she mattered. Then his attention shifted past her, and the spell broke. She exhaled hard and gripped the cart handle. Stupid. He probably hadn't even registered her, just another staff member in a sea of invisible workers. She needed to get out of here, needed to finish her rounds and go home and put her feet up and forget this entire day existed. She started pushing the cart toward the service elevator. The first gunshot sounded like a book slamming shut. The second and third came so fast they blurred together into one endless crack of thunder. Lyora's brain didn't process it at first. Her body did. She hit the floor before conscious thought caught up. The cart crashed sideways. Cleaning supplies scattered across marble. Bleach bottles rolled. Glass shattered somewhere behind her. Shouting. More gunshots. The sharp chemical smell of gunpowder mixing with lemon-scented floor cleaner. Her hands covered her head instinctively. Useless. What were hands going to do against bullets? But she couldn't stop. Couldn't think. Just pressed herself flat against the cold floor and tried to become invisible. Someone was screaming, high and terrified. It took her 3 seconds to realize it was her. A hand grabbed her arm. She thrashed, kicked. Every self-defense instinct her mother had drilled into her firing at once, but the hand was iron, unbreakable. It dragged her backward across the floor like she weighed nothing. She opened her mouth to scream again, "Stay down!" The voice was low, male, absolutely calm despite the chaos erupting 10 feet away. Don't move. Don't make a sound. Lucien Moretti crouched over her like a human shield. One hand pressed her shoulder flat against the marble. The other held a gun she hadn't seen him draw. His men had formed a wall between them and the ballroom entrance. Return fire strobed the hallway with muzzle flashes. Plaster exploded from the walls. A light fixture shattered overhead and rained glass. Leora couldn't breathe. Her chest felt crushed. Not from his weight. He wasn't touching her except that one hand keeping her down, but from pure terror squeezing her lungs empty. The baby. Oh God, the baby. She pressed both hands against her stomach and curled inward. Lucien's eyes dropped to the movement. To her hands, her belly. Understanding flashed across his face. Something shifted in his expression. Not softer, worse, harder, colder. More dangerous than anything she'd seen yet. How far along? His voice cut through the gunfire like a blade. She couldn't answer, couldn't form words. Her throat had closed completely. How far? He repeated it slower, each word deliberate. 6, she choked out. 6 months. He swore, low and vicious. Then he moved. Everything happened too fast. He hauled her up with one arm around her waist and started moving backward toward the service elevator. His men adjusted formation without being told. 2 in front, 2 flanking. Bullets punched holes in the walls around them. Leora's feet barely touched the ground. He was carrying her, half dragging, half lifting. Her shoes scraped marble, and then they were in the elevator, and someone hit the button, and the doors were sliding shut, and the silence after the doors closed felt obscene. Her ears rang. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Lucien released her, and she staggered against the elevator wall. Her legs wouldn't hold her. She slid down until she was sitting on the floor with her knees pulled up and her arms wrapped around her belly. You hit? One of the men, blonde, late 30s, face like carved stone, was checking Lucien for wounds with efficient hands. No. Lucien's eyes never left Leora. Get Romano. Tell him to bring the car around to the service entrance. And call Marcus. I want to know who the hell those shooters were before we reach the street. The blonde man nodded and pulled out his phone. Lucien crouched down in front of her, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Close enough to smell gunpowder and expensive cologne. Are you hurt? She shook her head, couldn't speak. You sure? His gaze traveled over her systematically. Professional, clinical, looking for blood or injury. Any pain? Cramping? No? The word came out as a whisper. I don't think so. You work here? She nodded. How long? 8 months. His jaw tightened. And you're 6 months pregnant working 10-hour shifts on marble floors. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. I need the money. Something flickered in his eyes. She couldn't read it, didn't want to. She just wanted to go home. Wanted to lock her door and hide under blankets and pretend this entire night never happened. The elevator doors opened onto the underground parking garage. The blonde man, Romano apparently, was already there with a black SUV idling. Lucius stood and offered her his hand. She stared at it like it might bite her. I'm not going to hurt you, he said quietly. But there were 6 shooters upstairs, and I killed 3. That means 3 are still unaccounted for. So you can either come with me until I'm sure it's safe, or you can take your chances walking home alone through a city where someone just tried to kill me in a public hotel. She took his hand. His grip was warm, solid, steadier than anything in her life had been in months. He pulled her up gently and guided her toward the SUV. Romano opened the back door. Lucienne handed her in like she was made of glass, then slid in beside her. The door closed. Engine humming, leather seats, tinted windows. The inside of the SUV probably cost more than she'd make in 5 years. Romano pulled out of the garage and onto the street. Rain still hammered down. The windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm. Nobody spoke. Leora pressed herself against the far door and tried to make herself small, tried to think. Her brain felt full of static, white noise, nothing connecting properly. "Where do you live?" Lucian's voice broke the silence. "Fletcher Street, the apartments above the laundromat." His expression didn't change, but she felt his judgment anyway. Fletcher Street was 6 blocks from Condemned. The kind of place where you triple-checked your locks and ignored screaming through the walls because getting involved got you killed. "Not anymore," he said flatly. Her head snapped toward him. "Excuse me? You were in that corridor because of me. Those men were trying to kill me, which means anyone they saw near me is a potential target until I clean this mess up." He pulled out his phone, started typing. "You'll stay at one of my properties until it's safe, guarded, protected. Then you can go back to your life." "No." The word came out harder than she intended. "Absolutely not. Just drop me at my apartment. I'll be fine." "You won't be fine." He didn't look up from his phone. "You'll be dead within 48 hours if they decide you saw something useful." "I didn't see anything." "They don't know that." Now he did look up. Met her eyes straight on. "Listen to me carefully. I don't make offers twice. You come with me now, stay put for a week, maybe 2, until my people sort this out, or I drop you at Fletcher Street and you take your chances. But if you choose option 2 and something happens to you, that's on you, not me. Understand?" Her hands curled into fists. "You can't just kidnap me." "I'm not kidnapping you, I'm offering you protection. By forcing me into a car and taking me somewhere against my will, that's literally kidnapping." The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. Not quite. "You have a smart mouth for someone who just got shot at. And you have a lot of nerve for someone who just ruined my entire night." This time he did smile. Small, cold, but real. "Ruined your night. That's one way to put it." Romano made a turn. They were heading away from Fletcher Street, away from downtown entirely, toward the expensive neighborhoods where houses had gates and security systems and probably cost more than she'd see in a lifetime. Panic fluttered in her chest. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer you're getting tonight." She wanted to argue, wanted to demand he turn the car around, but exhaustion hit her like a wave. Bone deep, soul-crushing. The adrenaline was wearing off and everything hurt. Her back, her feet, her head. The baby shifted inside her, a rolling movement that made her wince. Lucien noticed. Of course he did. His eyes tracked every movement she made like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "When's the last time you ate?" he asked. "I don't know. Lunch? That was 9 hours ago. I've been busy. Busy getting shot at." "That wasn't exactly on my schedule." Another almost smile. He leaned forward and tapped Romano's shoulder. "Stop somewhere. Get food." "Sir, we should get to the estate first." "I said stop somewhere. There's a diner 2 blocks up. Pull in." Romano's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." They pulled into a 24-hour diner wedged between a pawn shop and a bail bonds office. The neon sign flickered. Ernie's. Half the letters were burned out. The parking lot had more potholes than pavement. "Wait here," Lucian said. He opened the door and stepped out into the rain. Leora watched him walk into the diner through the downpour like he didn't even feel it, shoulders straight, head up, moving with the kind of confidence that said he'd never questioned his right to exist in any space he entered. The diner door swung shut behind him. Romano caught her eye in the rearview mirror. "Don't try to run." "I'm 6 months pregnant. Where exactly would I run to?" "Don't know. Don't care. Just don't do it." She glared at him but didn't argue. Truth was, she didn't have the energy to run. Could barely sit upright. Her body felt like it was held together with string and willpower, and both were fraying fast. Lucian came back 5 minutes later carrying 2 bags and a cup holder with drinks. He slid back into the SUV and handed her a bag. Burger, fries, milkshake. Eat. She looked at the bag. Her stomach growled loud enough that Romano heard it from the front seat. Traitor. I'm not hungry. You're starving. Eat or I'll feed you myself. You wouldn't dare. He pulled a burger from the second bag and unwrapped it. Took a deliberate bite. Chewed, swallowed, then looked at her expectantly. She grabbed the bag. The burger was still warm, greasy, perfect. She told herself she was only eating because the baby needed it, not because it was the first hot meal she'd had in 3 days, not because someone had actually noticed she existed long enough to buy her food, just for the baby. She finished the entire thing in under 5 minutes. Lucien watched her the whole time, not judging, just watching. When she crumpled up the wrapper, he handed her the milkshake. Strawberry, her favorite. She hadn't told him that. Lucky guess, probably. Better? He asked. She nodded reluctantly. Good. He settled back against the seat. Romano, drive. They left the city behind. Rain thinned to drizzle. Streetlights gave way to darkness, interrupted only by the SUV's headlights. Trees pressed in on both sides of the road. Mile after mile of nothing. Leora's eyes grew heavy. She fought it, fought the exhaustion dragging her down. But her body had other ideas. She woke up when the car stopped. The first thing she saw was gates. Massive iron things that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. They swung open silently. Romano drove through. The driveway curved through manicured gardens. Even in the dark, she could tell were immaculate. Then the house came into view. Not a house, an estate. 3 stories of stone and glass that looked like something out of a magazine. Lights glowed in windows. Security cameras tracked their approach. Armed men in suits stood at intervals along the perimeter. This is where you live? Her voice came out small. Yes? It looks like a fortress. It is. He opened his door. Come on. You need rest. She didn't move. Couldn't. This was insane, all of it. She was a maid from Fletcher Street. He was... God, she didn't even know what he was. Criminal? Businessman? Both? And now she was at his house in the middle of nowhere with men with guns standing around like it was normal. I can't stay here, she said. You can. You will. He climbed out, then leaned back in. I'm not arguing about this anymore tonight. You're exhausted, pregnant. You just survived an assassination attempt. Inside there's a bed with clean sheets and a bathroom with hot water and safety. Or you can sit in this car all night and freeze. Your choice. He walked toward the house without looking back. Leora sat there for 30 seconds, then a minute. Romano didn't say anything, just waited, patient as stone. Finally, she opened the door and climbed out. The inside of the house was worse than the outside. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, art on the walls that probably belonged in museums. A curved staircase swept up to the second floor. Everything was clean, perfect, cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. A woman appeared from a side hallway. 50-something, gray hair pulled back, kind eyes. Mr. Moretti. Grace, this is... He looked at Leora. I don't know your name. Leora. Leora Val. Leora will be staying with us for a while. She needs a room. Comfortable, quiet, private bathroom. He turned to Leora. Anything else you need? She almost said no. Pride wouldn't let the word form. Clothes, toiletries? My stuff is all at my apartment. Grace will take care of it. Give her your sizes. Anything you need, tell her. He started toward a hallway, then paused. And Leora, don't try to leave. There are men at every exit, guards on the grounds. You won't make it past the gate. So I am being kidnapped. You're being protected. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. He studied her for a long moment. Something complicated moved behind his eyes. We'll discuss it in the morning when you're thinking clearly. Right now, get some sleep. He disappeared down the hallway. Grace smiled gently. Come on, dear, let's get you settled. The room she led Leora to was bigger than her entire apartment. King-size bed, walk-in closet, bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people, windows overlooking dark gardens. It was beautiful, surreal. Wrong. Grace helped her out of the stained uniform and into soft pajamas that materialized from somewhere. Drew a bath, left towels and soap, and promised to bring food if she got hungry. Then she was gone, and Lyora was alone. She sank into the bath and let the hot water work on muscles that felt like concrete. Her hands rested on her belly. The baby kicked, strong, healthy, completely unaware that their entire world had just been turned inside out. "What did I get us into?" she whispered. The baby kicked again. No answers. Just movement. Life. She stayed in the bath until the water went cold. When she finally climbed into bed, the sheets felt like clouds. Expensive. Soft. Nothing like the scratchy second-hand things she'd been using. Her body sank into the mattress, and she thought she'd never be able to sleep in a strange place surrounded by armed men and a criminal who bought her burgers and looked at her like she was something worth protecting. She was unconscious in 30 seconds. Morning came with sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to close. Lyora woke disoriented, confused. Then memory crashed back and her stomach dropped. The hotel, the shooting, Lucien Moretti, his fortress mansion, all of it real. She sat up slowly. Her back didn't hurt. Her feet didn't throb. The bed had worked some kind of miracle. For the first time in months, she'd slept without waking up every hour in pain. A knock at the door made her jump. "Come in," she called. Grace entered with a tray, coffee, fruit, toast, scrambled eggs, orange juice. "Good morning. I thought you might be hungry." Lyora's stomach answered before she could. Grace smiled and set the tray on the bedside table. "There are clothes in the closet," Grace said. "I guessed your size, but if anything doesn't fit, let me know. Mr. Moretti would like to see you downstairs when you're ready." "What if I'm never ready?" Grace's smile turned sympathetic. "He's not as scary as he seems, dear. He had 3 people killed last night. 3 people who were trying to kill him. And you." Grace moved toward the door. "There's a difference between violence and evil. Took me years to learn that, but it's true." She left before Lyora could respond. The clothes in the closet fit perfectly. Maternity jeans, soft sweaters, everything comfortable and expensive. She dressed slowly, ate the breakfast because refusing it felt stupid. Then she made her way downstairs. The house looked different in daylight, still cold, still perfect, but less threatening somehow. Morning sun warmed the marble. The art on the walls showed texture and color she'd missed in the dark. She found Lucien in what appeared to be a library, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, leather furniture, a desk covered in papers. He stood at the window with his phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. When he saw her, he ended the call. "You slept well." Not a question, a statement. "How would you know?" "Grace checked on you twice. You didn't move." The idea of someone watching her sleep should have been creepy. Instead, it felt oddly comforting, like someone cared whether she was breathing. "I want to go home." "Not yet." "You can't keep me here." "We've had this conversation." He moved to the desk and sat on the edge. Casual, relaxed. Nothing in his posture suggesting he saw her as a threat. "The men who attacked last night were professionals. Colombian cartel. Someone paid them a lot of money to kill me. That's your problem, not mine. It became your problem when you were standing in that hallway." His eyes locked on hers. "They had a second team watching the exits. Security footage shows one of them photographed you getting into my SUV, so now they think you matter to me." "But I don't matter to you. You don't even know me." "That's irrelevant. They don't know that." He picked up a tablet from the desk and held it out. "This is what happens to people those men think I care about." She didn't want to look. Everything in her screamed not to look, but her hand reached out anyway and took the tablet. The images made her stomach turn. Crime scene photos, bodies, blood, things she couldn't identify and didn't want to. She shoved the tablet back at him. "Stop." "That's reality, Lyora. That's what will happen if they find you." His voice stayed level, matter of fact. "I can prevent it, but only if you stay here where my men can protect you." "For how long?" "Until I find who hired them. Until I eliminate the threat. Could be days. Could be weeks. I have a job, bills, rent, all taken care of." She blinked. "What?" "I called your building manager this morning, paid your rent through the end of the year, called your supervisor at the hotel and told them you're on medical leave. Paid." He stood and moved closer, not threatening, just direct. "You don't need to worry about money while you're here. Anger flared hot in her chest. You had no right. I had every right. You're in danger because of me. That makes you my responsibility. I'm not your anything. No? He took another step. Close now. Close enough she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Then why did I spend 3 hours last night making sure every entrance to your apartment building is monitored? Why did I have my men sweep for explosives? Why did I pay off your landlord and your boss and make sure you won't lose everything while you're hiding from cartel assassins? Because you feel guilty. I don't feel guilt. His voice dropped lower, rougher. I feel responsible. There's a difference. They stood there staring at each other. The air between them felt electric, charged. She should step back, should put distance between them, should do anything except keep looking into those dark eyes that saw too much. The baby kicked hard. She winced and pressed a hand to her side. Lucien's gaze dropped immediately. You all right? Fine, just another kick. Stronger. Active this morning. May I? She didn't understand at first. Then she saw his hand hovering near her belly, asking permission. The most dangerous man she'd ever met asking if he could touch her. She should say no, should establish boundaries, should remember he was a criminal who killed people and lived in a fortress and held her here against her will. Instead, she nodded. His hand settled against her stomach. Warm, careful, gentler than she expected. The baby kicked again right against his palm. His eyes widened, just slightly, just enough. Strong, he said quietly. Yeah, takes after his mother. His? I don't know yet, but feels like a boy. She didn't know why she was telling him this. Didn't know why his hand on her belly felt less invasive than it should. Doctor's appointment next week. They'll tell me then. You'll miss it. He pulled his hand back. Staying here. Reality crashed back. She'd forgotten for a moment, forgotten she was trapped. I need that appointment, need to know he's healthy. I'll bring a doctor here. That's not the same. It's better, private, safe. No waiting rooms where someone could be watching. He moved back to the desk. Business mode again. Whatever moment had passed was gone. Give Grace your doctor's information. We'll arrange it. She wanted to argue, wanted to rage against this entire situation, but exhaustion crept back in. Emotional more than physical. She was so tired of fighting, tired of surviving, tired of doing everything alone. Can I at least call someone? She asked. Let them know I'm okay? Who would you call? The question hit like a slap. She opened her mouth, closed it, thought hard. Her mother had been dead 3 years. No siblings. Friends had drifted away during her pregnancy when she couldn't afford to go out anymore. And Adrian, well, Adrian had made his position clear. Nobody, she said finally, quietly. Something shifted in Lucien's expression. Not pity, worse, understanding. You're alone. I'm fine. You're 6 months pregnant, working minimum wage with no support system and no backup plan. That's not fine. That's drowning. Don't! Her voice came out sharp. Don't act like you know me, like you understand my life. You live in a mansion with armed guards and unlimited money. You have no idea what drowning actually feels like. I know exactly what it feels like. His voice went cold, hard. I was 12 when my father got arrested, 13 when my mother drank herself to death, 14 when I was living on the streets doing things I won't describe to survive. So don't tell me I don't understand drowning. I spent years underwater before I learned to swim. Silence fell between them, heavy, uncomfortable. Leora didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to process the idea of this powerful man as a desperate kid. Didn't want to humanize him because that made everything more complicated. I should go, she said. Back upstairs. Get out of your way. You're not in my way. I don't belong here. Nobody belongs anywhere until they choose to stay. He turned back to the window, dismissing her. Grace will bring lunch at noon, dinner at 7. If you need anything in between, tell her. The library and garden are available to you. The rest of the house is off limits. Don't wander. Because I'm a prisoner. Because this house has 30 rooms and most of them contain things that would get you killed if the wrong person knew you saw them. He glanced over his shoulder. You're not a prisoner, Leora. You're a guest who can't leave yet. Learn the difference. She left before she said something she'd regret. The next 3 days blurred together. She stayed in her room mostly, came down for meals, avoided Lucian when possible, though she felt his presence even when he wasn't there. The house hummed with activity, men coming and going, quiet conversations in Italian, phone calls at all hours. Whatever business he ran, it never stopped. Grace became her lifeline, brought food, brought books, sat with her sometimes and told stories about working for the Moretti family for 20 years. Never mentioned what exactly the family did, never needed to. Leora wasn't stupid. On the 4th day, Grace brought clothes again. "Doctor's coming tomorrow, 10 a.m. Mr. Moretti wanted you to know." He actually arranged it. He always does what he says he'll do, good or bad. Grace smiled. "Try not to worry, dear. You're safe here." "I don't feel safe. I feel trapped." "Sometimes those are the same thing." The doctor arrived exactly at 10 the next morning. Young woman, professional. Spoke gently and checked everything twice. The baby was healthy, growing properly, heart rate perfect. And yes, definitely a boy. Leora cried when she saw the ultrasound image. Couldn't help it. 6 months of doing this alone, and suddenly here was proof, evidence. A little human growing inside her who would depend on her for everything. "You okay?" the doctor asked. "Yeah, just..." She wiped her eyes. "It's real now, you know?" "I know." The doctor printed pictures and handed them over. "He looks good, strong. You're doing great." After the doctor left, Leora sat in her room staring at the ultrasound images. Tiny hands, tiny feet, a face she could almost make out. Her son. Adrian's son. Except Adrian didn't deserve that title, hadn't earned it, had run the moment things got difficult. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in." Lucian entered, stopped just inside the threshold. His eyes went to the ultrasound pictures in her hands. "Everything okay? Doctor said it went well, but it's a boy." She held up one of the pictures. Healthy, perfect, due in early March. He moved closer, looked at the image like it was something precious. "May I?" She handed it to him. He studied it for a long moment. His expression was unreadable. Then he looked up and met her eyes. "Where's his father?" The question landed like a punch. "Gone." "Gone where?" "I don't know. Don't care." The lie tasted bitter. "He left when I told him I was pregnant. Said he needed time to think. Never came back." His name. It wasn't a question. It was an order. Leora's spine stiffened. "Why?" "Because if he abandoned you and his child, he deserves consequences." "Leave it alone." "I don't leave things alone. This isn't your business. You're in my house, under my protection. That makes it my business." His voice stayed level, but something dangerous moved behind his eyes. His name, Leora. She should refuse, should tell him to go to hell, should protect Adrian even though Adrian had done nothing to deserve it. But she was so tired of protecting people who hurt her. "Adrian Cross," she said quietly. Lucian's entire body went still, the kind of stillness that came before an explosion. "Say that again." "Adrian Cross. Why? Do you know him?" Lucian's laugh was cold, sharp. "Yeah, I know him. He worked for me until 6 months ago, right before he stole nearly $500,000 and disappeared." The room tilted. Leora grabbed the dresser for support. "What?" "Adrian Cross, mid-20s, brown hair. Scar on his left hand from a kitchen accident. Worked in my import division handling paperwork." Lucian's eyes were black fire. "Skimmed money for 9 months before I caught on. By then, he'd already vanished." "No." Her voice came out weak. "No, that can't be. When did you last see him?" "October. October 12th. The date was burned into her memory. "He said he was going on a business trip, never came back. October 10th is when the theft was discovered. He ran the moment he knew I was looking." Lucian moved closer. "Did he ever mention me? Did he tell you what he did?" "He said he worked in imports, that's all. He never..." Her breath caught. "He never talked about work. Said it was boring." "Boring!" Lucien's smile was razors. "He stole $500,000 from me and got you pregnant to create a distraction. Insurance. Something to make him look settled and normal if anyone came looking." That's not true. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. How well had she really known Adrian? He'd been charming, attentive, then absent more and more, working late, taking calls in other rooms. And she'd ignored it because she was in love and stupid. It's true, Lucian said. And you want to know the worst part? I've had men looking for him since October, following every lead, every possible connection. His eyes locked on hers, including you. Ice flooded her veins. What? I've known about you for months, Leora. Known where you lived, where you worked, known you were pregnant with his child. He took a step back, giving her space. I had men watching you, waiting to see if he'd contact you, if you'd lead us to him. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. You've been following me. I've been trying to find $500,000 and the man who stole it. You were a potential lead. And last night, the hotel, the shooting, her voice rose. Was that staged? Was any of it real? The assassination attempt was real. The cartel was real. His jaw tightened. But yes, I knew who you were when I pulled you out of that hallway. Knew you were carrying the child of a man who betrayed me. The betrayal hit harder than it should have. She barely knew this man, had been in his house less than a week. But somehow, his surveillance felt more personal, more invasive. So what now? You keep me here until Adrian comes to save me? Use me as bait? Adrian's not coming to save you. He doesn't care about you. And you do? She laughed bitterly. You've been using me from the start. I've been watching you. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. They stared at each other across the room. The air crackled with tension, anger, something else she couldn't name. Finally, Lucien spoke. Quieter. I'm not going to hurt you, Leora. You already have. He flinched, barely noticeable, but she saw it. I'm trying to protect you. By lying to me, by spying on me, by keeping me prisoner in your fortress. She moved toward the door. I want to leave, now, today. No. You can't keep me here. I can. I will. He moved between her and the door, not touching, just blocking. Because if you walk out of here, you're dead within 48 hours. The cartel knows your face. Adrian's enemies know you exist, and you have nowhere to go and no one to protect you. I don't need protection. You're 6 months pregnant and alone and carrying the child of a man who's put a target on your back. His control finally cracked. You need protection whether you want to admit it or not. From everyone except you, apparently. Yes, the word came out raw. From everyone except me. Because like it or not, I'm all you have right now. The truth of it hit her like a physical blow. She did have no one. Nowhere to go. Nothing except this room in this fortress with this man who'd been watching her for months. She sank onto the bed, buried her face in her hands, didn't cry, couldn't, was too angry and scared and exhausted. The mattress dipped beside her. Lucian sat. Not close. Careful. I should have told you, he said quietly. Should have been honest from the start, but I didn't know. He stopped, started again. I didn't expect you to be you. What does that mean? I expected Adrian's accomplice, someone who knew what he'd done and helped him do it. Instead, I found, he gestured at her, a pregnant woman working herself into the ground. Alone. Abandoned. Nothing like what I expected. So you felt sorry for me? No, I felt, he struggled with the word, responsible. You got caught in the crossfire of something that had nothing to do with you. And then last night when those bullets started flying and I saw you on the floor with your hands on your stomach trying to protect a baby you're raising alone. He stopped, breathed, continued. I realized you weren't just a lead to follow. You were a person who needed help whether you'd admit it or not. She looked at him, really looked, saw exhaustion in the lines around his eyes, tension in his shoulders, the weight of whatever empire he ran pressing down on him constantly. Why do you care? I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He stood, moved toward the door, stopped with his hand on the handle. You can leave if you want. I won't stop you. But think about whether your pride is worth your life. And his. He left before she could respond. Leora sat alone in the massive room staring at ultrasound pictures of her son. Adrian's son. The son of a thief who'd used her as cover and abandoned her the moment it became convenient. And Lucian Moretti, criminal, kingpin, the most dangerous man in the city, was the only person offering her safety. She picked up her phone, stared at it, typed Adrian's number from memory even though it had been disconnected for months. The call didn't go through. Of course it didn't. She pulled up her bank account instead. The rent payment was there. 3 months. Exactly like Lucian said. And a deposit. $5,000 with a note. Medical expenses. No questions asked. Her hands shook. She should leave. Should walk out of this house and never look back. Should find a way to survive on her own like she'd been doing. But the ultrasound pictures stared up at her from the bed. Her son. Her responsibility. Her entire world. And Lucian had been right about one thing. She had nowhere else to go. That night at dinner, she came down for dinner, which meant she'd made her choice even if she wouldn't admit it yet. Lucien was waiting in the dining room, a formal table set for 2, crystal, china. Too much for a simple meal. "You didn't have to do all this," she said. "Grace insists on proper dinners. Blame her." He pulled out a chair, waited. She sat. The meal was quiet, uncomfortable. Everything between them had shifted and neither knew how to navigate it. Finally, between the main course and dessert, Lucien spoke. "I'm still looking for Adrian." She set down her fork. "Why tell me?" "Because when I find him, you deserve to know." His eyes met hers. "And you deserve to decide what happens to him." "Decide what?" Understanding dawned. "You mean whether he lives or dies?" "I mean whether he faces consequences or walks away. Your choice." "That's not a choice. That's a test." "It's both." He leaned back. "Adrian stole from me, betrayed people who trusted him, put you in danger by association. He deserves punishment, but you were in love with him once, carrying his child. So the decision should be yours. I don't want that responsibility." "Too bad. You have it anyway." He paused. "Think about it. You don't need to answer now." Dessert arrived. Tiramisu. Perfect. She ate automatically. "When you find him," she said quietly, "will you tell me?" "Yes." "And until then?" "Until then, you stay here. Stay safe. Take care of that boy." He nodded toward her belly. "Everything else, I'll handle." "What if I don't want you to handle everything?" "Then tell me what you do want, and I'll make it happen." The offer hung in the air between them. Open-ended, dangerous, full of implications neither of them was ready to acknowledge. "I want—" She stopped. Started again. "I want to stop feeling helpless. Like everything's happening to me instead of because of me." "That's fair." "I want my life back. I can't give you that, but I can give you a new one if you let me." She looked at him, really looked. Saw not the predator from the hotel hallway, but a man offering her something she'd forgotten existed. Choice. What kind of new life? His smile was small, genuine. The kind where you're not alone anymore. 2 weeks crawled by like wounded animals. Leora learned the rhythm of Lucien's fortress. Breakfast at 7 when he was already 3 hours into his day, lunch alone in the garden when weather permitted, dinner at 7 sharp unless business kept him away. Which it did. Often. She learned other things too, like how his voice dropped an octave when he was giving orders that would get someone hurt, how he took his coffee black with 1 sugar, how his right hand flexed unconsciously when he was stressed. Little details she shouldn't notice, shouldn't care about. But the walls of even the most beautiful cage started closing in after a while, and watching him became a distraction from the monotony. The baby grew. Her belly expanded until none of the original clothes fit anymore. Grace brought new ones without being asked. Soft fabrics, room to breathe, everything tailored to fit perfectly. It should have felt like charity. Instead, it felt like being seen, like someone was paying attention to needs she'd stopped voicing years ago. But the watching went both ways. Leora caught Lucian staring sometimes, not at her face, at her stomach, at the visible proof that something lived and grew inside her that had nothing to do with him. His expression during those moments was complicated. Hungry, careful. Something else she couldn't name and didn't want to examine too closely. It made her uncomfortable, made her aware of herself in ways she'd spent months trying to ignore. On day 16, everything shifted. She was in the library, her favorite room in the entire house because it actually felt lived in, books worn from use, leather chairs creased from bodies, when Lucien burst through the door like violence given form. 3 men followed. Romano plus 2 others she didn't recognize, all of them radiating tension. Lucien's eyes found her instantly. Out. Excuse me? Out. Now, this is business. Pride flared hot. This is a library. I was here first. And now you're leaving. He moved toward her, not threatening but inevitable, like a storm rolling in. Go upstairs. Stay there until I get you. You can't just order me around. I can, and I am. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough she could see the muscle jumping in his jaw. What we're about to discuss isn't something you need to hear, so either walk out on your own or I'll carry you out. Your choice. The room went silent. Romano and the other men suddenly found the ceiling fascinating. Leora's hands curled into fists. Every instinct screamed to fight, to refuse, to make him acknowledge she wasn't just some doll to be moved around. But his eyes told a different story. Not anger, fear, the kind that came before violence, the kind that meant whatever conversation was about to happen would end with someone bleeding. She stood, slowly. Fine. She made it to the door before his voice stopped her. Leora. She turned. His expression had softened, fractionally. I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to protect you from information that could get you killed if you repeat it. I wouldn't. I know, but they don't. He gestured to the men behind him. And some things, once you know them, you can't unknow. Trust me on this. She wanted to argue, wanted to demand he treat her like an adult capable of handling reality. But exhaustion won. Always did eventually. How long? An hour? Maybe 2. His voice dropped. Grace will bring you lunch. Stay in your room, please. The please did it, made her nod and walk away without another word. But she didn't go to her room. She went halfway up the stairs and stopped, sat on a step where she could hear but not be seen. Wrong? Absolutely. Dangerous? Probably. But she was tired of being protected from information about her own life, tired of decisions being made around her instead of with her. Lucian's voice carried up the stairwell. You're sure it's him? Positive. Romano's gravelly tone. Facial recognition pinged him in Costa Rica 3 days ago, beach town called Jaco, living in some shithole hostel under the name Marcus Webb. How much does he have left? Maybe 50 grand based on his spending patterns. Rest is gone, gambling, women, stupid investments. Romano paused. He's broke, boss. Desperate. Good. Desperate makes people sloppy. Lucien's footsteps paced. She could picture him moving behind the desk, thinking, calculating. How fast can you get a team down there? Planes ready, say the word, and we're wheels up in 2 hours. Do it. I want him alive, conscious, able to talk. The temperature in his voice dropped to Arctic. And I want him terrified. Silence stretched. Then one of the other men spoke. Younger voice, nervous. Boss, about the girl. What about her? She's still here, living in your house, eating your food. You're paying her bills. The nervousness increased. Some of the guys are wondering why. She's just some maid cross-knocked up, not worth the resources or the risk. The sound that came next made Leora's blood freeze. Not words, just a sharp crack like bone meeting bone. Then a body hitting the floor. Anyone else want to question my decisions? Lucian's voice was silk over razors. Anyone else want to discuss what Leora Vale is or isn't worth? No response. That's what I thought. She's under my protection, which means she's untouchable. Understood? Murmurs of agreement. Now get the fuck out. All of you except Romano. Footsteps. The library door opening and closing. Then silence. Leora held her breath. You think I'm making a mistake? Lucian's voice quieter now, tired. I think you're getting attached. Romano's response was careful. Which isn't like you. She's pregnant, alone. Her baby's father stole from me and abandoned her. What would you have me do? Put her somewhere safe and walk away. Instead, you're keeping her here. In your home, having dinners with her, making sure she's comfortable. A pause. Last time you got attached to someone, it ended badly. This is different. How? Long silence. So long Leora thought maybe they'd stop talking. Then Lucian spoke, and something in his voice made her chest tight. Because she looks at me like I'm a man instead of a monster, and I forgot what that felt like. Romano sighed. She's carrying Cross's baby, boss. That doesn't bother you? Every day. Raw honesty. But the kid didn't choose his father, neither did she. They're both innocent in this. And when Cross is dealt with, what then? I don't know. You better figure it out, because whatever's happening between you two, it's getting complicated. And complicated gets people killed. Footsteps moved toward the door. Leora scrambled up the stairs as quietly as her pregnant body allowed. Made it to her room seconds before she heard Romano's voice in the hallway below. She closed the door and leaned against it, heart hammering, mind racing. They'd found Adrian. Lucian was sending men to grab him. And apparently everyone in this house thought she was some kind of liability, some maid who didn't deserve protection. Except Lucian, who'd hit someone for suggesting it. Her hands moved to her belly automatically. The baby kicked like he could sense her distress. It's okay, she whispered. We're okay. But she wasn't sure that was true anymore. Grace brought lunch an hour later. Soup, bread, fruit. Leora ate mechanically while Grace chattered about the weather and the gardens and nothing that mattered. When she left, Leora was alone again with her thoughts, which was dangerous, because now she knew Lucian was bringing Adrian back, which meant decisions needed to be made, choices about what happened next. And she had no idea what she wanted. Part of her, the part that still remembered being in love, wanted to see him, wanted answers, wanted to understand how someone could promise forever and deliver nothing, wanted him to see what he'd done, who he'd abandoned, the child he'd never meet. But another part, louder, angrier, wanted him to suffer, wanted him to feel even a fraction of the fear and loneliness she'd drowned in for months, wanted him to understand consequences. She didn't know which part scared her more. Dinner that night was tense. Lucien barely spoke, pushed food around his plate without eating. His phone buzzed constantly. Updates, probably. Status reports on the team heading to Costa Rica to grab the man who'd destroyed her life. When? She asked finally. He looked up. When what? When will they bring him back? His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. You were listening. I was curious. Curiosity is dangerous. So is lying to me. She set down her fork. You said you'd tell me when you found him. Well, you found him. So when does he get here? Lucien studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, tapped something, and slid it across the table. The screen showed a photo. Adrian, scruffy beard, sunburned, thinner than she remembered, sitting at some beachside bar with a beer and a woman's hand on his shoulder, smiling. Actually, smiling. While she'd been working herself into the ground pregnant and alone, he'd been drinking on a beach. Rage hit her like a physical force, hot, blinding. She shoved the phone back across the table. When? 3 days, maybe 4. Depends on extraction logistics. And then? And then you decide what happens to him. He pocketed the phone. Like I promised. What if I don't want to decide? Too bad. This is your life he fucked up. Your choice how to unfuck it. She stood, too fast. The room tilted. Lucien was around the table in seconds, hand on her elbow steadying her. Easy. Don't. She pulled away. Don't touch me. Don't act like you care. You're just using me to get to him. If I was just using you, you'd be in a safe house somewhere, not sleeping in my guest room eating meals with me every night. Then what am I? The words came out desperate. What is this? Because I don't understand what's happening anymore. He stepped back, gave her space. You're someone who deserves better than what life's handed you, and I'm trying to give you options you didn't have before. By keeping me prisoner. By keeping you alive. His voice hardened. You want to leave? Fine. Door's right there. But walk out of here and you're on your own. No protection, no money, no safety net. Just you and your baby against a world that doesn't give a shit if you survive. At least it would be my choice. Your choice to die, that's freedom to you? Yes, the word ripped out of her. Because it's mine. My life. My decision. Not yours. Not Adrian's. Mine. They stared at each other across the dining room, both breathing hard, both too stubborn to look away first. Finally, Lucian spoke, quieter. You're right. She blinked. What? You're right. This is your life. Your choice. He moved to the door, stopped with his hand on the frame. So choose. Stay here where it's safe or leave and take your chances. But make the decision and live with it. Don't blame me either way. He left. Leora stood alone in the empty dining room surrounded by crystal and china and wealth she'd never understand. Her hand shook. Her chest felt tight. Everything in her wanted to run, to prove she could, to take back some control. But her hands moved to her belly and the baby kicked and reality crashed back. She couldn't leave. Not really. Because leaving meant risking him. Her son. The only thing in her life that mattered. Which meant Lucien had been right all along. She hated him for it. 3 days passed like months. The tension in the house ratcheted higher with each hour. More men arrived. Security tripled. Lucien spent entire nights in his office making calls and issuing orders in 3 different languages. Grace tried to maintain normalcy, but even she seemed nervous. Leora stayed in her room mostly. Watching. Waiting. Trying to prepare herself for seeing Adrian again, and failing completely. On the 4th morning, Romano appeared at her door. He's here. 2 words. That's all it took to make her stomach drop into her shoes. Already? Plane landed an hour ago. Boss wants to know if you're ready. No. That's not an option. Romano's expression was unreadable. You can see him now while you have control, or he'll see you eventually when you don't. Which would you prefer? She wanted to scream, to refuse, to hide under the covers like a child and pretend none of this was real. Instead, she stood, smoothed down her sweater, lifted her chin. Where? Basement, East Wing. He paused. It's not pretty down there. I didn't expect pretty. The walk through the house felt surreal. Morning light streamed through windows, making everything golden and peaceful, while she headed towards something dark and terrible. They passed Grace in the hallway. She touched Leora's hand briefly. No words, just contact. Then they were moving again. Down a hallway she'd never seen, through a door that required a key code, downstairs that descended into darkness. The basement was exactly what Romano had warned. Concrete walls, exposed pipes, a single chair bolted to the floor in the center of the room under harsh fluorescent lights. And sitting in that chair, zip-tied and bleeding from a split lip, was Adrian Cross. He looked up when the door opened, saw Romano first, then her. His eyes went wide. Leora? Her name in his mouth felt wrong, like he'd lost the right to say it months ago and hadn't earned it back. She stepped forward slowly, taking him in. The beard, the tan that was fading, the fear in his eyes, the way he looked smaller than she remembered, less. You're pregnant, his voice cracked. You're... How far along? 7 months. Her voice came out steady, cold. You would know that if you'd stayed. I was going to come back. Liar. The word landed like a slap. He flinched. Leora, I swear, I just needed time. You needed time? She moved closer, close enough to see the veins in his eyes, the stubble on his jaw. You needed time to steal $500,000 and run to Costa Rica? Needed time to drink on beaches while I worked myself half to death pregnant and alone? Needed time to fuck other women while I slept in a shitty apartment wondering if our baby would have a father? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Adrian? Explain it to me. Make me understand how abandoning me was somehow noble. He opened his mouth, closed it. Tears tracked down his face. I was scared. The admission hung in the air, pathetic, true, completely inadequate. I was scared too, Leora said quietly. Difference is, I didn't run. I fucked up. I know I fucked up. But I can fix this, No, you can't. She stepped back. You can't fix this. You can't unfuck 6 months of hell. Can't undo the nights I cried myself to sleep. Can't erase the times I stood in the grocery store trying to decide between food and prenatal vitamins because I couldn't afford both. Can't give me back the person I was before you broke me. Leora, please. Stop saying my name, her voice rose. You don't get to say my name. You don't get to look at me like you care. You gave up that right when you walked away. Adrian's face crumpled. Full breakdown, shoulders shaking, sobbing. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I love you. I never stopped loving you. You don't know what love is. The words came from behind her. Lucien. She hadn't heard him enter. Love doesn't run, doesn't steal, doesn't abandon. Adrian's head snapped up, saw Lucien, and something close to recognition crossed his face. Then terror. Mr. Moretti, you remember me. Good. Lucien moved to stand beside Leora, close enough their shoulders almost touched. You stole from me. Used this woman as cover, got her pregnant to look legitimate, then ran the moment I started asking questions. I didn't use her. Yes, you did. Lucien's voice was absolute. You needed to look settled, normal. So you found a lonely waitress and played the part. Problem is, you're a shit actor. Leora's stomach turned. He's lying. He's not. Lucien pulled out his phone, tapped, held it up. These are emails from Cross's account, sent to himself. Want me to read them? No, Adrian started. Phase 1 complete, Lucien read. Got the girl. She's sweet, trusting, perfect cover. Moretti will never suspect me now. He scrolled. Need to speed up the timeline. She's pregnant. Didn't plan for that, but might work in my favor. Makes everything look more real. Each word was a knife. Leora couldn't breathe, couldn't process. The room spun. Stop, Adrian whispered. Please stop. Going to take the money next week. She's 6 months now. Big enough that leaving her looks bad, but I'll be gone before anyone connects it. Poor thing will think I just couldn't handle fatherhood. She'll never suspect I played her from the start. Lucien lowered the phone. Want me to continue? No. Leora's voice was broken glass. I don't need to hear any more. She looked at Adrian, really looked, and saw not the man she'd loved but a stranger wearing his face. Someone who'd calculated her loneliness and exploited it. Someone who'd touched her with hands that were always preparing to leave. Someone who'd put a baby inside her as part of a fucking scheme. Did you ever love me? She asked. Even a little bit? Adrian's silence was answer enough. Something inside her shattered. Not her heart. That had broken months ago. Something deeper. The part that still believed people were fundamentally good. The part that thought love meant something. Leora. Lucien's hand touched her elbow gently. She pulled away. Moved toward the door. Needed air. Needed space. Needed to be anywhere except in this room with this man who'd turned her entire existence into a lie. Wait, Adrian's voice desperate. What happens to me now? She stopped at the door, didn't turn around. I don't care. Leora, please. I said I don't care. She spun back. You want to know what happens to you? Fine. Lucien does whatever he wants with people who steal from him. Could be quick. Could be slow. Could be you disappear and nobody ever finds the body. I don't care. But the baby is not yours. The words came out flat, final. You gave up any claim the day you ran. He's mine. Only mine. You're nothing to him, nothing to me. Less than nothing. She walked out before he could respond. The stairs felt endless. Her legs shook. Her vision blurred. She made it to the main floor before the tears came. Hot, angry. Not for Adrian, for herself. For the fool she'd been. For believing someone could actually want her. Lucien found her in the library 20 minutes later. She was curled in the big chair by the window, staring at nothing. He didn't speak, just sat in the chair across from her and waited. I loved him, she said finally. I actually loved him. I know. He played me, used me, got me pregnant as part of a plan. Yes. And I never saw it, never questioned, just believed every word like an idiot. You weren't an idiot. You were trusting. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. She wiped her eyes roughly. What happens to him now? Lucien was quiet for a moment. What do you want to happen? I don't know. Part of me wants him dead, wants him to suffer, wants him to feel even a fraction of what he did to me. She looked at Lucien. Is that evil? It's human. And the other part? What does the other part want? To forget he ever existed. To pretend none of it happened. To protect my son from knowing his father was a monster. Lucien leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Here's what I think. Adrian Cross is a coward and a thief. He used you, betrayed me, put you in danger by association. He deserves punishment. But death? Death is permanent. And your son might have questions someday. So what do I do? You decide if he lives or dies. If he lives, I can make sure he never bothers you again. New identity, different country, far away where he can't hurt anyone else. If he dies, Lucien shrugged. Problem solved permanently. The weight of it pressed down on her. Life or death. Her choice. Too much power, too much responsibility. I can't make that decision. You have to. Why? Why is this on me? Because you're the one he hurt most. Lucien's voice was gentle. And because if I make the choice, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if it was the right one. This way, you know, you decide. You live with it. She closed her eyes, thought about Adrian tied to that chair in the basement, thought about her son growing inside her, thought about the kind of person she wanted to be, the kind of mother she wanted to be. Send him away, she said finally. I don't want him dead, just gone forever. You're sure? No, but it's the right thing to do anyway. Lucien stood, moved toward the door, stopped. For what it's worth, I think you made the right choice. You think I'm weak. I think you're strong enough to choose mercy when you have every right to choose violence. That's not weakness. That's strength most people don't have. He left her alone with her thoughts. That night, Leora couldn't sleep. She paced her room until her feet hurt, then sat by the window watching darkness. Around 3 a.m., she heard sounds from below. Engines, doors slamming, voices giving orders. She looked out and saw an SUV pulling away from the house. Couldn't see inside, but she knew Adrian was gone. She waited for relief, for closure, for something that would tell her she'd made the right decision. Nothing came, just emptiness. And the baby kicking inside her like he was trying to remind her he existed, that he mattered, that whatever happened next, she wasn't alone. She put her hand on her belly. It's just us now, you and me. We're going to be okay. The baby kicked harder. Agreement maybe, or protest. Hard to tell. She was still sitting there when dawn broke and Grace knocked with breakfast and the rest of the world woke up like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Adrian was gone. The past was gone. And Leora Vale was left standing in the ruins trying to figure out who she was now that the lies had been stripped away. A week passed. Then 2. Life in the fortress returned to something resembling normal. Lucien went back to his business. Grace went back to mothering. Romano went back to lurking. And Leora went back to existing in the space between guest and prisoner, unsure which she actually was. Until one morning at breakfast when Lucien set down his coffee and looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. I want to adopt him. She stared. What? Your son, when he's born. I want to adopt him. Legally. Permanently. Her fork clattered against the plate. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Why? Why would you? She struggled for words. You don't even know him. He's not yours. He's not Adrian's either. Not anymore. Lucien's voice was calm. Absolute. Adrian gave up his rights when he walked away. And you need help raising him. Protection, resources, things I can provide. So this is charity? This is family. The word hung between them. Heavy. Complicated. We're not family, she said quietly. We could be. He stood, moved around the table, crouched in front of her chair so they were eye level. Listen to me. You're going to have this baby in 2 months. You have no support system, no father for him, no family to help, just you against the world. And you're strong, Leora, but nobody's that strong. So you want to what? Play house? Pretend we're a family? I want to give that boy a chance you never had, a father who chooses to stay. Resources. Protection. A name that means something in this city. And yes, I want to help you because watching you do this alone is killing me. She stared at him. Why do you care? Because he stopped, started again. Because somewhere between pulling you off that hotel floor and watching you choose mercy for a man who deserved none, I started caring, and I can't stop. Don't want to stop. Her breath caught. Lucien, I'm not asking you to love me. I'm not even asking you to like me. I'm asking you to let me help, to let me be there for your son, to give him what his biological father never could. And what do you get out of this? His smile was sad, small. Maybe a chance to be someone other than the monster everyone thinks I am. She wanted to say no, wanted to run, wanted to protect herself from getting hurt again, but her hand moved to her belly and the baby kicked, and she thought about raising a child alone versus raising him with help from someone who actually wanted to be there. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. He stood. But Leora, when you decide, make sure it's what you want, not what you think you should want, not what's practical, what you actually want. He left her sitting there with a decision that felt impossibly huge and terrifyingly permanent, and for the first time in months, she didn't know what the answer was. The decision sat in Leora's chest like a stone for 3 days. Heavy, unmoving, impossible to ignore. Lucien didn't push, didn't ask, just existed in the same space as her with careful distance, like she was something wild that might bolt if he moved too fast. Breakfast across the table, dinner in silence, passing in hallways with nods instead of words. The restraint felt worse than pressure somehow, made her aware of every breath, every choice, every second she spent not giving him an answer. On the 4th day, she woke with contractions. Not real labor, false alarm. Braxton Hicks, the doctor called it, when Grace rushed her to the private clinic Lucien kept on retainer. Practice contractions, the baby getting ready. Still weeks away from actual birth, but close enough that her body had started rehearsing. Lucien arrived at the clinic 20 minutes after Grace called him. Burst through the door wild-eyed and pale, like he'd driven 100 miles an hour the whole way. Found her sitting on the exam table in a hospital gown with monitors strapped to her belly. What happened? Is he okay? Are you? We're fine. She cut him off before panic could finish destroying him. False labor. Baby's healthy. I'm healthy. Everything's fine. He stopped, breathed. The color slowly returned to his face. You're sure? Doctor just checked. Said it's normal this far along. She gestured at the monitors showing the baby's heartbeat. Strong, steady, perfect. See? He's fine. Lucien moved closer. Stared at the screen like it held the secrets of the universe. His hand lifted toward her belly, then stopped midair. Asking permission without words, she nodded. His palms settled against her stomach. Warm, solid. The baby kicked immediately like he recognized the touch. Lucien's breath caught. He's strong. Takes after his mother. She smiled despite everything, despite the fear that had gripped her throat in the car ride over, despite the certainty that something was wrong even when nothing was. Stubborn, too. Definitely takes after his mother, then. They stayed like that for a moment, his hand on her belly, her hand covering his, the baby moving between them like a bridge connecting two people who had no business being connected. Then the doctor came back, and the moment shattered. Everything looks good, she said, but given how active these contractions were, I'd recommend staying close to medical facilities for the next few weeks. No long trips, no stress, plenty of rest. Leora nodded. Lucien's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. The drive back to the estate was quiet. Grace drove while Lucien sat in the back with Leora, hand resting on the seat between them, not touching, just there, available. I've been thinking about your offer, she said finally. His head turned, careful, controlled. And? I have conditions. Name them. You don't get to make decisions about him without talking to me first. Medical, education, everything. We discuss it. Agreed. And if this doesn't work, if we try this family thing and it falls apart, her voice caught. You don't get to take him from me. I'm his mother. That doesn't change no matter what. I would never take him from you. The words came out fierce. Absolute. You're his mother. You'll always be his mother. I'm just asking to be his father, the one who stays. She studied his face, looking for the lie, the angle, the trap, found nothing except raw honesty that made her chest tight. Okay, okay. Okay, you can adopt him. When he's born. Legally. Permanently. She turned to face him fully. But Lucien, if you hurt him, if you use him or lie to him or make him feel like he's not enough, I will destroy you. I don't care how powerful you are. I will burn your entire empire to the ground. His smile was genuine. Proud even. I'd expect nothing less. They shook hands like business partners. Formal, binding, sealing something that felt bigger than either of them could comprehend. When they got back to the estate, Lucian disappeared into his office to call lawyers. Grace helped Leora upstairs and fussed until she was settled in bed with tea and pillows. Then finally, she was alone. She put both hands on her belly and whispered to the baby growing inside her. I hope I'm making the right choice for you. I hope he's who he says he is. I hope... Her voice broke. I hope you get the father I never had. The baby kicked, strong, insistent, like he was trying to tell her something. She chose to believe it was approval. 2 weeks passed in a blur of lawyers and paperwork and medical appointments. Lucienne handled everything with military efficiency, found the best adoption attorney in the state, had documents drafted and redrafted until every contingency was covered, made sure Leora understood every clause and provision, never once tried to slip something past her. It should have made her trust him. Instead, it made her suspicious, made her wonder what he was getting out of this. Because in her experience, people didn't help without wanting something in return. And Lucien Moretti, criminal kingpin, ruthless businessman, man who'd killed 3 people without blinking, didn't strike her as the charitable type. She was in the library reading through adoption papers for the 3rd time when Romano found her. Boss wants to see you. His office. Now. The tone made her stomach drop. Not Romano's usual gruff professionalism. Something else. Something cold. What's wrong? Not my place to say. Just go. She went. Lucien's office was on the 3rd floor in a wing she rarely entered. Heavy door, dark wood, windows overlooking the grounds. He stood behind his desk with his back to her, shoulders rigid. A laptop sat open in front of him, showing something she couldn't see. Close the door, he said without turning. She did. What's going on? How long have you known? The question made no sense. Known what? Don't play stupid. It doesn't suit you. He turned and his expression stopped her cold. Not anger. Worse. Betrayal. How long have you known where Adrian's money is? Her blood turned to ice. I don't know what you're talking about. This was sent to me an hour ago. Anonymous email, untraceable. He spun the laptop around. Care to explain? The screen showed a bank statement. Account in the Cayman Islands. Nearly $400,000. And the name on the account made her knees buckle. Leora M. Vale. That's not mine. The words came out weak, strangled. I don't have a bank account in the Caymans. I don't even have a passport. Then how did 400 grand end up in an account with your name on it? His voice was surgical, cutting. How did the money Adrian stole from me end up in your possession? It didn't. I swear I don't know anything about this. You knew. He moved around the desk, slow, predatory. You knew the whole time. That's why you were so convincing playing the abandoned pregnant girlfriend, because it was the perfect cover. Nobody suspects the victim. I am the victim. Are you? He stopped 3 feet away. Or are you a world-class actress who played me from the moment I pulled you off that hotel floor? Who saw an opportunity and took it? Who got herself into my house, into my life, made me care? His voice cracked. Made me care about you and that baby just so you could run with my money the moment you had the chance. No. Tears streamed down her face. No, that's not what happened. I didn't know about that account. I never helped Adrian. I don't even know how he could have opened an account in my name without my... Understanding hit like a freight train. My social security number, she whispered. I gave it to him once. For health insurance when we first started dating. He said he could add me to his policy through work. I never thought he'd... Convenient story. Lucian's eyes were black ice. Got an explanation for everything. Must have practiced it. I'm not lying. Everyone's lying, Leora. The only question is how much. He pulled his phone from his pocket. Dialed. Romano, get up here and bring Marcus. Lucien, please, don't. He held up a hand. Don't say another word. Because right now, I'm trying very hard not to do something I'll regret. Romano arrived with another man. Marcus, apparently. Built like a truck with dead eyes. They flanked the door, blocking her exit without being told. Search her room, Lucian said. Every drawer, every pocket, every place someone might hide account numbers or passwords or proof they've been stealing from me. No. Leora started forward. Romano caught her arm. gentle but firm. Let them go. If you're innocent, you've got nothing to hide. You can't do this. I can do whatever I want in my own house. His voice dropped to something dangerous. You're a guest here on my generosity, and guests who betray me don't stay guests very long. They disappeared down the hallway. Leora stood frozen in the office with Lucian's gaze boring into her like he was trying to see through to her soul, looking for the truth, or maybe just confirmation of what he already believed. I didn't betray you, she said quietly. I know how it looks. I know the timing is suspicious, but I swear on my son's life I had nothing to do with that account. Your son. His laugh was bitter. The son I was going to adopt. The son I was going to raise as my own. Was that part of the plan too? Get me attached so I wouldn't look too closely at where the money went? There was no plan. Then explain the account. I can't. The words ripped out of her. I can't explain it because I don't understand it either. Adrian must have opened it using my information. Must have been planning this longer than either of us knew. Must have set me up to take the fall if anything went wrong. Or you're exactly what you appear to be. His partner. His accomplice. Lucian moved to the window, stared out at nothing. I should have known better. Should have listened when Romano said you were too convenient, too perfect, too much exactly what I needed. What does that mean? It means I've been played before. By people I trusted. People I cared about. His reflection in the glass looked haunted. And I swore I'd never let it happen again. But then you showed up pregnant and scared and so goddamn alone I couldn't help myself. So you think I what? Orchestrated the assassination attempt at the hotel? Made sure I was in that hallway at exactly the right time? Got myself 6 months pregnant as part of some elaborate scheme? Maybe. Maybe not. He turned back to her. But that account exists, with your name on it, and I can't ignore that. Romano returned 15 minutes later, empty-handed. Nothing, boss. No paperwork, no passwords, no evidence of offshore accounts or communication with Cross. He looked at Leora. Her room's clean. Something flickered in Lucien's expression. Hope, maybe, or doubt. You checked everywhere? Everywhere. Unless she's hiding it on her person, it's not in this house. Then check her person. Leora's head snapped up. Excuse me? You heard me. Empty your pockets. Take off any jewelry. Anything you might be using to hide account information. I'm not doing that. Then you're admitting you have something to hide. I'm admitting I deserve basic dignity. Her voice rose. You want to search me? Fine. But not here. Not in front of them. And definitely not because some anonymous email made you paranoid. Lucian studied her, long enough she wanted to scream. Then he nodded at Romano. Out, both of you. They left. Silence filled the office. Heavy, suffocating. I'm waiting, Lucien said. Leora's hands shook as she reached into her pockets. Empty. Nothing except a tissue. She pulled off her watch, the cheap one Grace had given her to replace the one that broke months ago. Set it on his desk, turned out her other pocket, also empty. Satisfied? Necklace. She touched the thin gold chain at her throat. The only thing she still had from before. The one her mother had given her before she died. This was my mother's. I don't care. Take it off. No. Leora. I said no. She stepped back. You want to believe I betrayed you? Fine, believe it. Throw me out. Call the cops. Do whatever you think I deserve. But I'm not taking off my mother's necklace so you can prove to yourself that I'm a liar. They stared at each other, neither backing down. The space between them felt like miles. Finally, Lucian moved, closed the distance in 3 strides, reached for the necklace. She slapped his hand away. He grabbed her wrist. Not rough, not gentle, just firm. Let me see. No. Let me see or I'll assume you're hiding something. Assume whatever you want. You already think I'm guilty. His other hand moved to the clasp at the back of her neck. She twisted away. He followed. They struggled for a moment, her trying to protect the last piece of her mother, him trying to confirm or deny his suspicions. Then the clasp broke. The necklace fell. Lucien caught it midair, examined it, turned it over, looked inside the tiny locket she never opened because opening it meant seeing her mother's face and remembering everything she'd lost. His expression changed, shifted. Something dark and terrible replacing the anger. What is this? I told you, my mother's necklace. This. He held up a small piece of paper that had been hidden inside the locket, folded so small she'd forgotten it was there, or maybe never knew. What is this? She squinted at it. Numbers. A long string of numbers and letters that meant nothing to her. I don't know. I've never seen that before. It's an account number. His voice was dead, flat. The account number for the Cayman account in your name. The room tilted, her vision blurred at the edges. That's impossible. I've had that necklace for 3 years, since before I met Adrian, before any of this. Then how did the account number end up inside it? I don't know. But even as she said it, memory flickered. Adrian's hands on the necklace one night, said the clasp was loose, said he'd fix it for her, had kept it overnight and returned it the next morning with the clasp working perfectly. He must have put it there, she whispered. Adrian. That night he fixed the clasp. He must have opened the locket and hidden it inside without telling me. Why would he do that? I don't know. Insurance, maybe? Proof I was involved if anyone came looking? A way to frame me if he got caught? Her legs gave out. She hit the floor hard. Knees on wood, hands on her belly protecting the baby from a fall that hadn't happened. I swear I didn't know it was there. I swear I never helped him. I swear... I want to believe you. Lucian crouched down in front of her, eye level. I want to believe every word coming out of your mouth. But the evidence says otherwise. Then the evidence is lying. Evidence doesn't lie. People do. I'm not lying. She grabbed his shirt, desperate. Look at me. Look at my face and tell me you really think I'm capable of this. That I planned this, that I used you. He looked. She watched him search her face for the truth, watched calculation happen behind his eyes, watched out war with logic. I don't know what to think anymore, he said finally. Then think about this. She pulled his hand to her belly where the baby was moving, agitated by her stress. Think about the fact that I'm 7 months pregnant with a baby whose father abandoned me. Think about how I've been living here for weeks without trying to access that account, or run, or do anything except exist and heal. Think about whether someone planning to steal from you would really be that stupid. The baby kicked hard against his palm. Once, twice, like he was adding his own argument. Lucian's expression cracked. Just slightly, just enough. I want to believe you, he repeated, softer this time, almost broken. But trust is a luxury I can't afford. Then what happens now? He stood, pulled her up with him, gentle despite everything. Now I verify everything, check every detail of your story, trace how Adrian opened that account, confirm he put that paper in your necklace. And if you're telling the truth, he paused. If you're telling the truth, then I owe you an apology. And if you decide I'm lying, his silence was answer enough. She pulled away, wrapped her arms around herself, around her belly. I want to leave. No, you can't keep me here if you think I'm a criminal. I can and I will, because if you're innocent, leaving gets you killed. And if you're guilty, leaving means you disappear with my money. His hand flexed. Either way, you stay until I know the truth. So I'm a prisoner again. You're protected. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. He moved to the door, opened it. Romano was waiting outside like he'd never left. She doesn't leave the estate. In fact, she doesn't leave her room unless Grace or I am with her. Understood? Yes, sir. Lucien looked back at her one last time. Something complicated moved behind his eyes. Regret, maybe. Or just exhaustion. I'm sorry it has to be this way. No, you're not. He left without arguing. Romano escorted her back to her room in silence, closed the door behind her. She heard the lock click from outside. She stood in the middle of the room that had started to feel like hers and realized it had always been a cage. Beautiful, comfortable, but a cage nonetheless. Her hands moved to her belly. The baby rolled and kicked and reminded her she wasn't alone even when she felt like she was drowning. I'm sorry, she whispered to him. I'm so sorry I brought us into this mess. The baby kicked harder, like he was telling her to fight, to survive, to not give up. She moved to the window, looked out at the grounds, the gates, the armed men patrolling, the world that existed beyond this fortress that she couldn't reach, and made a decision. She wasn't going to wait for Lucian to decide her fate, wasn't going to sit in this room like a doll waiting to be moved, wasn't going to let another man control her life. She was going to find proof she was innocent, going to track down every piece of evidence that would clear her name. Going to survive this because her son deserved better than a mother who gave up when things got hard. But first she needed to get out of this room. She waited until midnight, until the house went quiet, until even the guards outside her door had relaxed into their posts. Then she went to work. The window didn't open, painted shut probably, but the bathroom window was smaller, older, and when she pushed hard enough, the frame gave. Cold air hit her face. 3 stories up. No way down except a drain pipe that might not hold her weight, especially not 7 months pregnant. She looked back at the locked door, at the room that had felt safe until it became a prison, at the life she'd been trying to build that had collapsed in one afternoon. Then she looked at her belly, at her son who was counting on her to be smarter than this, braver than this, better than this. "I'm doing this for you," she told him. "Everything's for you." She climbed onto the windowsill and reached for the drain pipe. It held. She started climbing down, hand over hand, feet finding purchase on old brick, the baby shifting inside her, making balance impossible, her muscles screaming, her breath coming in gasps. But she didn't stop, couldn't stop, because stopping meant falling, and falling meant losing everything. She made it halfway down before someone shouted, "She's climbing out! West side, get a team there now!" Lights flooded the wall, voices yelled orders, footsteps thundered toward her position. She moved faster, reckless now, desperate. The pipe groaned under her weight. A bracket pulled loose from the wall. She was 10 feet from the ground when the pipe gave way completely. She fell, hit grass hard. Pain exploded through her side. Her hands went to her belly instinctively, protecting, checking, praying. The baby moved, kicked, still alive, still okay. She tried to stand, made it to her knees before arms grabbed her from behind. "Don't move," Romano's voice. "Just stay down." More hands. More people. They surrounded her like she was dangerous instead of desperate. Someone called for a doctor. Someone else called for Lucian. She stayed on her knees in the grass with her arms wrapped around her belly and tears streaming down her face. Not from pain, from defeat, from the crushing realization that there was no escape, no way out, no hope. Lucian appeared through the crowd like an avenging angel, dropped to his knees in front of her, hands on her face forcing her to look at him. "What the hell were you thinking?" She couldn't answer, couldn't form words, just sobbed and shook and tried to hold on to the last shreds of herself. "Get her inside," he ordered, "carefully, and get the doctor here. Now!" They carried her. She didn't fight, didn't have the strength. Just let them move her like a doll back into the cage that was pretending to be a home. The doctor arrived within an hour, checked her thoroughly, checked the baby, declared them both miraculously unharmed, just bruises, nothing broken, nothing permanent. Lucien stood in the corner the entire time, silent, watching, his expression unreadable. When the doctor left, they were alone. "You could have killed him," Lucian said finally. "You could have fallen and killed your son." "I know." "Then why?" "Because staying here was killing me slower." She looked at him. "You locked me in that room, decided I was guilty without proof, made me a prisoner after promising I wasn't one. What did you expect me to do? Trust me to find the truth." "Trust you?" Her laugh was broken. "You don't even trust me. Why should I trust you?" He moved closer, sat on the edge of the bed. "Because I'm the only thing standing between you and a world that wants to destroy you. You're part of that world. I'm trying to protect you from it. By locking me up, by treating me like a criminal, by—" Her voice broke. "By making me believe you actually cared before ripping it all away. I do care." "No, you don't. You care about your money, your reputation, your precious empire, not me. Never me." "That's not true. Prove it." He stared at her. She stared back. Neither blinking, neither backing down. "I can't," he said finally. "Not until I know for certain you're innocent." "Then we're done here." She turned away from him, curled onto her side facing the wall. "Get out. Lock the door. Do whatever you want. I don't care anymore." "Leora, get out." He stood. She heard his footsteps move toward the door, heard it open, heard him pause in the threshold. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I hope you're telling the truth. Because if you are, I've made a terrible mistake. And if I'm not? Silence. Then God help us both. The door closed, the lock clicked, and Leora lay alone in the dark with her son moving inside her and absolutely no idea how she was going to survive what came next. 3 days passed like years. Leora stayed in her room because she had no choice. The lock remained engaged. Meals arrived on trays carried by Grace, who wouldn't meet her eyes. The doctor came twice more to check on the baby, still healthy, still growing, still completely oblivious to the disaster surrounding him. Lucien didn't visit. She told herself she didn't care. Told herself his absence was a relief. Told herself a lot of lies that tasted like ash. On the 4th morning, Grace brought breakfast and something else. An envelope. Cream-colored, expensive paper. No name on the outside. What's this? Grace's expression was pained. He asked me to give it to you. Said to read it carefully. She left before Leora could ask who he was, though she already knew. The envelope sat on the bedside table for an hour while she ignored it. Ate cold eggs, drank lukewarm coffee, stared at the walls and tried not to think about how her entire life had become this room and nothing else. Finally, curiosity won. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Lucien's handwriting, sharp, precise. No wasted words. I found proof Adrian opened the account 3 days after you gave him your social security number. Bank records show him making deposits under your name without your knowledge or signature. Security footage from the bank shows him alone. You weren't involved. Her breath caught. Hands shaking so hard the paper rattled. I also found the jeweler he used to open your locket. Paid cash. Told the jeweler it was a surprise gift for his girlfriend. The jeweler confirmed Adrian was alone and described him perfectly. Relief hit like a tidal wave. Tears blurred the words, but she kept reading. You were telling the truth. You've been telling the truth this entire time, and I didn't believe you. The paper crumpled in her fist. She couldn't see anymore. Couldn't breathe past the sob building in her chest. Not relief. Rage. Bone-deep fury that he'd doubted her. That he'd locked her up and treated her like a criminal when she'd done nothing except survive. There was more. She smoothed the paper out to read the rest. I'm sorry. Doesn't cover what I've done to you. There's no apology big enough for making you feel like a prisoner after everything you've already survived. But for what it's worth, I am sorry. And I'm trying to make it right. The account has been frozen, the money seized. Adrian will face charges for identity theft and fraud on top of everything else. You're clear, free, innocent in every way that matters. But I know I've broken something between us that can't be fixed with paperwork and apologies, so I'm giving you a choice. Stay here. Let me fulfill my promise to help you and your son. Let me adopt him and give him everything I offered before I fuck this up, or leave. I'll set you up with an apartment, 6 months rent paid, $50,000 to get you started, a clean break from me and everything I represent. The door to your room will be unlocked in 1 hour. The choice is yours. L. She read it 3 times. Looking for the trap. The angle. The way he was still manipulating her. Found nothing except what appeared to be genuine remorse, which somehow made it worse. He'd broken her. Shattered what little trust she'd managed to rebuild after Adrian. Made her believe she mattered and then proved she didn't. And now he thought an apology and some money would fix it. The paper landed in the trash. She packed. What little she had. Clothes Grace had bought, toiletries, the ultrasound pictures. Nothing else. This place had never been home. Just a beautiful cage she'd been stupid enough to mistake for safety. Exactly 1 hour later, the lock clicked open. She walked out without looking back. The hallway was empty. No guards. No Romano. Just silence and the echo of her footsteps on marble. She made it down the stairs. Through the foyer. To the front door that stood open like an invitation. Or a test. Lucien waited outside. Standing beside a black sedan. Not the armored SUV. Just a normal car. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Dark circles, wrinkled shirt, hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. You're leaving. Not a question. Yes. I have the apartment ready, downtown, secure building, good neighborhood. He held out a key. Address is on the tag. First 6 months paid. Account's been set up in your name with the money I promised. She took the key without touching his hand. Thank you. Leora, don't. She cut him off. Don't apologize again. Don't try to explain. Don't make this harder than it already is. I need you to understand. I understand perfectly. Her voice was ice. You didn't trust me. When it mattered most, when I needed you to believe me, you chose to believe evidence planted by a man who wanted to destroy me. That tells me everything I need to know about where I stand with you. I was trying to protect my business. Your business? She laughed, sharp, bitter. Your business is built on violence and theft and God knows what else. But the moment you thought I might have taken money from you, suddenly I'm the villain, not the man who actually stole from you, not the system that makes women like me easy targets. Me, the pregnant maid who's been clinging to survival by her fingernails. His jaw tightened. That's not fair. Fair? The word came out like a slap. You want to talk about fair? You locked me in a room, treated me like a criminal, made me so desperate I climbed out a window and nearly killed my baby. And you think I'm being unfair by not forgiving you fast enough? I'm trying to make this right. You can't make this right. You can give me money and housing and space, but you can't give me back what you took. She pressed a hand to her chest. You can't give me back my trust. My belief that maybe someone actually saw me as more than a problem to solve or a body to use. I do see you. No, you don't. You see a responsibility, a debt to pay, something to check off your list so you can sleep at night. She moved toward the car. But I'm done being anyone's burden, done being saved, done letting men decide what I'm worth. She opened the car door. The adoption papers, Lucian said quickly, they're still ready if you change your mind. The offer still stands. It doesn't. She looked at him over the roof of the car. You wanted to adopt my son because you thought it would make you better than you are, more human, more redeemable. But you can't adopt your way into being a good person, and my son deserves better than someone who loves him conditionally. I would never. You already did. She got in the car. Goodbye, Lucien. The driver, some guy she didn't recognize, pulled away before Lucien could respond. She watched him shrink in the rearview mirror, standing in front of his fortress looking more alone than she'd ever seen him. Good. Let him feel a fraction of what she'd felt. The apartment was nice. Too nice. 20th floor security desk, doorman. View of the city that probably cost more per month than she'd made in a year at the hotel. 2 bedrooms, modern kitchen, furniture already in place, everything coordinated like someone had hired a designer. She hated it on site. Too clean, too perfect. Too much like another cage, except this one had better locks. But it was hers, paid for or not, hers. She unpacked, made tea, sat by the window watching traffic move below like ants, and tried to figure out what came next. She had money, housing, freedom, everything she'd wanted for months. So why did it feel like she'd lost? The baby kicked, hard, insistent, like he was reminding her he existed, that whatever she felt about Lucien or Adrian or the entire situation, she still had him, still had purpose. It's just us now, she told him, like it always should have been. Her phone rang, unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something made her pick up. Hello? Leora Vale? Male voice, professional, clipped. Who's asking? Detective Marcus Chen. I'm investigating the theft from Moretti Enterprises and the identity fraud committed against you by Adrian Cross. Her stomach dropped. I already gave statements to Lucien's lawyers. I know, but there's been a development. Papers rustled on his end. Adrian Cross was released from federal custody this morning. The room tilted. What? Someone posted his bail, $2 million cash. He walked out of lockup at 9 a.m. and disappeared. That's impossible. Lucian said. She stopped. Thought. Who posted bail? That's the interesting part. The money came from an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Same bank as the account opened in your name. He paused. Ms. Vale, do you know anyone else who might have access to that account? No, I don't even have access. I never did. That's what concerns me. Because if Adrian had help stealing that money, and if that help is still active, another pause. I think you might be in danger. From who? I don't know yet, but someone with $2 million to spare wanted Adrian Cross out of custody bad enough to risk exposure. And the only thing Adrian Cross knows that's worth that kind of money is information about you and Lucien Moretti. The line went dead. She sat frozen, phone in hand, mind racing. Someone had bailed Adrian out. Someone with access to the stolen money. Someone who wanted him free. Why? Her phone rang again. Different number. She answered without thinking.
"You stupid bitch," Adrian's voice. Slurred, drunk maybe, or high. "You really thought you could play both sides? Thought you could fuck Moretti and keep my money? I don't have your money." "Bullshit. I set up that account for both of us. Was supposed to be our escape fund. But then you got pregnant, and everything went sideways, and suddenly you're living in his mansion playing house. I never touched that money. I didn't even know it existed."
Liar?
Something crashed on his end. Glass breaking.
You told him where it was, helped him freeze the account, got me arrested, destroyed everything I built.
"You destroyed yourself. I'm coming for you." His voice dropped to something venomous. "You and that bastard baby. I'm going to make you pay for every second I spent in that cell thinking about what you did." The line died.
Her hand shook so hard she dropped the phone. It clattered on the floor. She grabbed it. Dialed 911. The call wouldn't connect, no signal, but she'd just been talking to Adrian. How was there no signal? She ran to the window, looked down. The street looked normal, cars, people, nothing wrong. Then she saw him. Adrian, standing across the street, looking up at her building, phone in hand, smiling. She stumbled back, hit the wall. The baby kicked frantically like he could sense her terror. The door exploded inward. Not Adrian. Two men, big, armed, moving with military precision. One grabbed her before she could scream, hand over her mouth, arm around her waist, lifting her off her feet. She fought, kicked, bit down on the hand covering her mouth, tasted blood. The man swore but didn't let go. "Sedate her," the second man said. "She's pregnant. I don't care. Boss wants her compliant." A needle, sharp pain in her neck. The world went fuzzy at the edges. Her legs stopped working, her vision blurred. The baby kept kicking, but she couldn't feel her body anymore. Couldn't fight, couldn't scream, couldn't do anything except fade into darkness while strange hands carried her away. She woke in motion.
Vehicle. Van, maybe? No windows. Zip ties cutting into her wrists. Tape over her mouth. Her head felt full of cotton, body sluggish. But the baby was still moving, still kicking, still alive. That's what mattered. She forced herself to stay still, to think, to remember her training. Not that she'd had formal training, but growing up in a bad neighborhood taught you things. How to stay calm when scared, how to look for exits, how to survive. The van stopped. Doors opened. Hands grabbed her again, dragged her out into cold air and darkness. A warehouse. Abandoned by the look of it. Broken windows. Graffiti on the walls, the smell of mold and decay. They threw her in a room, small, concrete. Single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. The door slammed shut. Lock engaged. She ripped the tape off her mouth, gulped air. Her wrists were still zip-tied, but she could move, could stand, could look for a way out. The door opened before she could try. Adrian walked in. He looked worse than the phone call suggested. Strung out, wild-eyed, a gun hanging loose in his right hand. "Hello, sweetheart." His smile was razors. "Miss me? Let me go." "Let you go?" He laughed. "After everything you cost me? After you chose him over me?" "I didn't choose anyone. You left. I left to protect you." He moved closer. She backed up until she hit the wall. "I left because Moretti was closing in and I didn't want you caught in the crossfire. Was going to come back for you once things cooled down. But then you went and got cozy with him, started living in his house, eating his food, letting him touch you. He never touched me." The gun came up fast, pressed against her temple, cold metal. Her breath stopped. "Don't lie to me." His voice was dead calm, worse than the shouting. "I've been watching. I know he wanted you. No, he was planning to adopt my kid, my son, like I don't exist." "You don't exist." The words came out before she could stop them. "You stopped existing the moment you abandoned us." His hand flexed on the gun. She waited for the shot, for the darkness, for it to be over. It didn't come. Instead, he lowered the gun, stepped back.
You're right. I don't exist. Not anymore. Because you and Moretti destroyed me. Took everything. Left me with nothing. So what now? You kill me? Kill your son? That's your plan? No. He smiled. Now I get my money back. And I use you to do it. Understanding crashed over her. You think Lucian will trade for me? I know he will. He's got a savior complex a mile wide. Can't help himself when it comes to broken things. Adrian pulled out his phone, started typing. He'll pay anything to get you back safe. And once I have the money, I disappear. You never see me again. Everyone wins. Except I'm the leverage in a hostage situation. You're good at being leverage, had plenty of practice. He hit send. Message sent. Now we wait. He won't pay. He will. I left him, walked out, told him I never wanted to see him again. Why would he pay to save someone who hates him? Adrian's smile widened. Because he's in love with you. Anyone with eyes could see it. The way he looked at you, protected you, lost his mind when he thought you'd betrayed him. He leaned against the wall, casual, confident. Yeah, he'll pay, and probably kill me after. But at least I'll die rich. The baby kicked hard, painful, like he was trying to fight his way out. Leora pressed a hand to her belly, whispered to him silently. Stay calm, stay safe. We'll get through this. Time crawled. Adrian paced, checked his phone obsessively, muttered to himself, the drugs or alcohol or whatever he was on making him twitchy, unpredictable, dangerous. An hour passed, maybe two. Hard to tell without windows, without her phone, without anything except the bare bulb and Adrian's increasingly erratic movements. Then his phone buzzed. He read it, smiled. He's agreed. Wants proof you're alive first. Tell him to go to hell. No. Adrian grabbed her arm, dragged her to the center of the room, held up his phone. Smile for the camera. She didn't smile, just stared at the lens with as much defiance as she could muster. Let Lucian see she wasn't broken, wasn't defeated, was still fighting. Adrian took the photo, sent it, waited. The response came 30 seconds later. Whatever it said made Adrian laugh. He wants to talk to you, confirm you're okay. How sweet. He put the phone on speaker. Lucien's voice filled the room, low, controlled, absolutely lethal. Leora, I'm here. Are you hurt? No, baby's okay too. Good. A pause. Adrian, you listening? I'm listening. You have 30 minutes to tell me where you are. I'll come alone. Bring the money. We make the trade. Then you run and I never stop hunting you. Not good enough. I want triple what I stole, plus immunity, plus a head start. You'll get the money and the head start. No immunity. You don't deserve it. Then no deal. Then I'll find you myself. And when I do, what I'll do to you will make you beg for the mercy of a quick death. Silence. Adrian's hand shook on the phone. Fear finally breaking through the bravado. Fine, he said finally. Triple the money. 24-hour head start. Then you can hunt me all you want. Done. Where? Adrian rattled off an address. The warehouse they were in, apparently. 30 minutes? Alone. Or she dies. If you touch her, you'll what? Kill me? I'm already dead. We both know it. Adrian's voice cracked. Just bring the money. Let me have one more chance to start over. That's all I'm asking. The line went dead. Adrian slumped against the wall, gun dangling from his hand. He's coming. It's going to be okay. I'll get the money. Disappear. You'll be fine. You really believe that? I have to. He looked at her, really looked, and for a second she saw the man she'd fallen in love with. Before the drugs, before the theft, before everything went wrong. I'm sorry for all of it. For using you, for leaving, for this. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix anything. I know. He slid down the wall until he was sitting. But it's all I've got left. They sat in silence, waiting. The baby kept moving. Leora kept her hands on her belly, kept whispering promises she didn't know if she could keep. 28 minutes later, she heard it. Vehicles. Multiple. Outside were doors slamming, footsteps. Lots of them. Adrian shot to his feet. He was supposed to come alone. The door exploded inward. Men poured in. Black tactical gear, guns raised, shouting. Adrian raised his gun, but they were faster. A single shot. Adrian's shoulder. He went down screaming. His gun skittered across the floor. Then Lucien was there. He looked like death. Black suit. No tie. Expression carved from stone. His eyes found her immediately, scanned her head to toe, checking for injury. You okay? She nodded, couldn't speak. He moved to her, pulled a knife, cut the zip ties. His hands were gentle as he checked her wrists for damage. His voice was whiskey and gravel. Get her out of here. Medical team standing by outside. I want her and the baby checked immediately. Sir, Romano appeared in the doorway. Now! Lucien's voice cracked like thunder. Romano moved forward, tried to take Leora's arm. She pulled away. What happens to him? She looked at Adrian, bleeding on the floor, broken, pathetic. Lucien followed her gaze. Something dark moved behind his eyes. That depends on you. Me. He kidnapped you, threatened your life, put your son in danger. Lucien pulled his own gun, checked the chamber. I can end this now. One bullet. He never hurts anyone again. Or I can call the police. Let the system handle it. He'll go to prison, probably for life. Your choice. Why is it always my choice? Because you're the one he hurt most. You deserve justice on your terms. She looked at Adrian, looked at Lucien, looked at the gun that could end everything in 1 second, and realized she didn't want either option. I want him alive, she said finally. I want him in prison remembering every day what he lost, what he threw away. I want him to live with that. Lucien lowered the gun. Done. He nodded to Romano. Call it in. Make sure they know he resisted. Make sure they know everything he did. Romano made the call. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Lucien turned back to Leora. We need to get you checked out. I'm fine. You're 7 months pregnant and we're just kidnapped. You're not fine. You're in shock. He took her arm gently. Come on. Let the doctors make sure your son is okay. She let him guide her out. Past Adrian, who was crying and babbling and trying to apologize. Past the tactical team securing the scene. Into cold night air that felt like freedom. An ambulance waited outside. Paramedics moved forward. Lucien helped her onto the gurney, held her hand while they checked her vitals. The baby's heartbeat filled the air. Strong, perfect, alive. He's okay, the paramedic said. Everything looks good. But we should take her to the hospital for observation. Do it. Lucien started to pull his hand away. She grabbed it, held tight. Come with me. Leora, please. I don't want to be alone right now. Something in his expression cracked. Okay, I'll follow in my car. Meet you there. No. She gripped harder. In the ambulance, with me. Now. He climbed in without argument. The ambulance doors closed. Engine started. Sirens wailed. And Leora sat with Lucien Moretti beside her, holding her hand while their son kicked between them and the city blurred past outside, and everything that had broken started to feel like maybe it could be pieced back together after all. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Leora sat on the exam table while doctors poked and prodded and confirmed what she already knew. The baby was fine. Heartbeat strong. No signs of distress. Just a mother who'd been through hell and somehow walked out the other side. Lucien stood in the corner the entire time, silent, watchful. His presence should have felt oppressive, but instead it felt like gravity. Something solid in a world that kept trying to shake her loose. When the doctors finally left them alone, the silence stretched tight as wire. Thank you, she said finally, for coming, for finding me. You don't need to thank me. His voice was rough. This was my fault. If I trusted you from the start, if I hadn't locked you up like some criminal, you never would have left. Never would have been vulnerable to... Don't. She cut him off. Don't make this about your guilt. I made the choice to leave. I made the choice to answer Adrian's call instead of blocking him. I walked into that situation with my eyes open. You were trying to survive. We're all trying to survive. Question is what we're willing to destroy to do it. She looked at him, really looked. You could have killed Adrian. Could have ended it quick and clean. Why didn't you? Because you asked me not to. That's never stopped you before. His jaw tightened. Maybe I'm trying to be different than I was before. People don't change. Not really. They just get better at hiding what they are. You think I'm still a monster? I think you're a man who does monstrous things for reasons you've convinced yourself are justified. She shifted on the table. Her back ached. Her wrists hurt where the zip ties had cut. But I also think you're the only person who showed up when I needed help. Even after I walked away. Even after I told you I hated you. You still came. Of course I came. He moved closer, stopped a few feet away like he was afraid to get too near. You think I could just let you die? Let him take you? After everything? Why not? I'm nobody. Some maid who got caught in your mess. Why risk your life for that? Because you're not nobody. The words came out fierce, raw. You're the first person in 10 years who looked at me and saw a man instead of a weapon, who didn't want something from me except basic human decency, who fought back when I pushed and pushed back harder when I was wrong. So what? I'm some kind of redemption project for you? No. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated, exhausted. You're the person who made me remember what it felt like to care about something other than power and money and staying alive. You made me remember I used to be human. She wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to the fury that had sustained her through the kidnapping and the fear and the absolute certainty she was going to die in that warehouse. But looking at him now, really looking, she saw past the tailored suit and the controlled expression to the terrified man underneath who'd probably broken every speed limit getting to her. I'm tired, she said quietly. I'm so tired of fighting, of being scared, of wondering who's going to hurt me next. I know. And I'm tired of being alone, of doing everything by myself because asking for help feels like admitting defeat. That's not defeat. That's survival. Then why does it feel like I'm losing? He closed the distance between them, slowly, carefully, like approaching something wild. Stopped when his knees touched the exam table. Close enough she could smell his cologne, see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, count the new lines stress had carved into his face. You're not losing, he said. You're standing. After everything life threw at you, you're still standing, still fighting, still protecting that boy like your life depends on it. That's not losing. That's winning in the only way that matters. Her vision blurred. She blinked hard, but the tears came anyway. Hot, angry. I don't feel like I'm winning. I know. His hand lifted, hesitated. She grabbed it and pressed it against her belly where the baby was moving. But he's alive. You're alive. That's the only victory that counts. The baby kicked against his palm, strong, insistent. Lucienne's expression softened into something she'd never seen before. Not possession, not pride, just pure wonder. I meant what I said before, he told her, about the adoption, about being his father. I know I fucked up, know I broke your trust, but if you'll let me, I'd like to try again, do it right this time. Why? She needed to understand, needed to hear him say it. Why do you want this so badly? Because I grew up without a father, watched my mother drink herself to death trying to forget he existed. Spent my childhood watching other kids get picked up from school by dads who gave a shit while I walked home alone. His voice cracked. I don't want that for him. Don't want him growing up wondering why he wasn't enough to make someone stay. He's not yours. Biology doesn't make a father. Being there does. Showing up when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when every instinct says to run. His other hand came up to cup her face. I'm asking for a chance to show up, that's all. She wanted to say no. Wanted to protect herself and her son from the inevitable disappointment when Lucien got bored or scared or remembered he was a criminal kingpin with more important things to do than play house. But she was so tired of doing everything alone. So desperate for help, she'd accept it from the devil himself if he showed up with diapers and good intentions. I can't promise I'll love you, she said. Can't promise this will work or that we'll be some happy family. Can't promise anything except that I'll try. That's all I'm asking. And if you hurt him, you'll destroy me. I remember. He smiled, small, sad. I'm counting on it, actually. Keeps me honest. She almost laughed. Almost. You're insane. Probably. But I'm your brand of insane if you'll have me. Before she could answer, a nurse knocked and entered. Miss Vale, we'd like to keep you overnight for observation, just to be safe. That's not necessary. It is. Lucien's voice left no room for argument. She stays. I'll stay with her. The nurse nodded and left. Leora glared at him. You can't just make decisions for me. I'm not. I'm making a suggestion based on the fact that you were kidnapped 3 hours ago and need rest. If you want to leave, I'll drive you home myself. But I think staying is smarter. She hated that he was right. Hated that her body was already agreeing, exhaustion pulling at her like gravity. Fine, but you're not staying. Yes, I am. Lucienne, you said you didn't want to be alone, so I'm staying. End of discussion. They transferred her to a private room an hour later. Comfortable bed, monitors, a chair that folded out into something resembling a mattress where Lucien planted himself like he'd been assigned guard duty. A nurse brought dinner. Hospital food, but edible. She ate mechanically while Lucien worked on his phone, issuing orders, checking in with Romano, running his empire from a chair beside a hospital bed. Do you ever stop? She asked. Stop what? Working, being in charge, making sure everything runs exactly how you want it. He set down the phone. Not really. If I stop, things fall apart. People die. Money gets lost. The whole thing collapses. Sounds exhausting. It is. He leaned back, rubbed his eyes. But it's all I know how to do. All I've been doing since I was 15 and decided dying in the gutter wasn't how my story was going to end. How did a 15-year-old kid become... She gestured at him. This? You really want to know? We've got time. So he told her. Not the sanitized version. The real one. Growing up poor, father in prison, mother checked out. Streets that ate kids alive if they weren't smart or vicious or lucky. He'd been all three. Started running errands for local crews. Graduated to enforcing, to stealing, to doing things he wouldn't describe in detail, but she could imagine. Worked his way up through blood and brutality until he wasn't the kid getting stepped on anymore. He was the one doing the stepping. Doesn't sound like you had much choice, she said when he finished. Everyone has a choice. I chose violence over starvation, power over vulnerability, becoming a monster over staying a victim. He looked at her. Same choice you made every day you kept working while pregnant, kept surviving when giving up would have been easier. We're not that different. I never killed anyone. Not yet. But if Adrian had threatened your son directly, would you have? She didn't answer, didn't need to. They both knew. The night dragged on. Nurses came and went, checked vitals, adjusted monitors, confirmed the baby was still doing fine. Leora dozed on and off. Every time she woke up, Lucien was there, sometimes working on his phone, sometimes just sitting, watching her like he was afraid she'd disappear if he looked away. Around 3 a.m., she woke from a nightmare, gasping, sweating, hands on her belly confirming the baby was still moving, still alive, still safe. Lucien was beside her in seconds. You're okay, you're safe. It was just a dream. It was so real. Her voice shook. I was back in that warehouse. Adrian had the gun to my stomach. He was going to... She couldn't finish. Couldn't voice the horror. He's in custody. Can't hurt you anymore. Can't hurt either of you. What about next time? What about when someone else decides I'm a good target? When being connected to you makes me vulnerable? That won't happen. You can't promise that. I can and I will. He sat on the edge of the bed. From now on, you have security. 24/7. Best men I've got. They'll keep you safe. I don't want to live like that. Looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows. Then what do you want? She thought about it. Really thought. I want normal. I want to take my son to the park without armed guards. I want to buy groceries without checking if I'm being followed. I want boring and predictable and safe. I can give you that. No, you can't. Not while you're doing what you're doing. Not while people want you dead. His jaw tightened. What are you asking me to do? I'm not asking anything. I'm telling you the truth. You want to be in our lives? You want to be his father? Then you need to decide what kind of man you want him to see when he looks at you. A criminal or someone trying to be better? It's not that simple, and it never is. But it's the choice you have to make. She laid back against the pillows. Think about it. You've got 8 weeks until he's born. Figure out what kind of father you want to be. She closed her eyes. Heard him stand. Heard his footsteps move to the door. Thought he was leaving. Then the footsteps returned and he was sitting in the chair again. Staying, even when she just told him to question everything about his life. That said something. She wasn't sure what, but something. Morning came with breakfast trays and discharge papers. The doctor checked her one last time, declared her and the baby healthy enough to leave, handed her pamphlets about trauma counseling and stress management, told her to take it easy. Like that was possible. Lucien drove her back to the apartment. Neither of them spoke. The silence felt heavy, weighted with all the things they weren't saying. When they pulled up to the building, she expected him to drop her off and leave. Instead, he parked and followed her inside. "What are you doing?" "Making sure you're settled." "I can settle myself." "Humor me." They rode the elevator in silence, walked to her door. She unlocked it and stopped. The apartment had been cleaned. The door Adrian's men kicked in had been replaced. New locks, new security system. Everything put back together like the violence had never happened. "Grace and Romano handled it," Lucien said, "while we were at the hospital. Figured you wouldn't want to come back to the mess." She didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to process the fact that he'd thought about her comfort while she was in the hospital, that he'd sent people to fix things without being asked. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." He moved into the living room. "We need to talk about security, about keeping you safe going forward. I don't want guards following me everywhere." "Then you'll have a panic button. Direct line to my men. Press it, and they'll be here in under 2 minutes." He pulled a small device from his pocket. Black. Discreet. "It's not negotiable." She took it. "And if I don't use it? Then I'll worry every second you're out of my sight. And I'll probably send Romano to tail you anyway because I'm a controlling bastard who can't help himself. At least you're honest about it." "I'm trying to be." He moved toward the door, stopped with his hand on the knob. "I've been thinking about what you said, about the kind of father I want to be. And you're right. I can't be knee-deep in criminal activity and expect him to turn out normal. Can't bring that violence into his life and pretend it won't touch him." He turned to face her. "So I'm making changes, cutting ties with the dangerous parts, keeping the legitimate businesses, going clean, or as clean as someone like me can get." She stared. "You're serious?" "Completely. It'll take time. Can't burn everything overnight without starting a war. But within a year, maybe 2, I'll be out. Just a regular businessman who happens to have a colorful past." "Why? Why would you give up everything you built?" "Because he's worth more than an empire." Lucien's voice was absolute. "And so are you." He left before she could respond. Leora stood in the apartment for a long time after he was gone, processing, trying to understand, trying to believe he actually meant it, that he'd actually walk away from power and money and everything he'd fought for just to be someone's father. The baby kicked. She put both hands on her belly. "Your dad's insane, you know that, right? Completely out of his mind." The baby kicked again, harder, like he approved. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm. Doctor's appointments, nursery shopping, childbirth classes that Lucien attended with military precision, taking notes, asking questions, treating labor preparation like a mission to be studied and mastered. Other couples gave them strange looks. The obvious criminal and the exhausted woman who looked like she'd been through a war. But nobody said anything. Not when Lucien's hand stayed gentle on her back. When his attention never wavered. When he looked at her like she was the most important thing in the room. She didn't trust it at first. Kept waiting for him to get bored. To remember he had better things to do. To prove he was exactly what she expected. But he showed up. Every time. Every appointment. Every class. Every moment she needed him. It was terrifying. Around week 33, she woke up at 2 a.m. to him sitting on the couch in her living room. She'd given him a key weeks ago. Emergency access. But he'd never used it until now. "What are you doing here?" She kept her voice low, non-threatening. The gun in his lap told her something was wrong. "Couldn't sleep. Wanted to make sure you were safe." "From what?" "Everything." He set the gun down. "I keep thinking about what almost happened. How close I came to losing both of you. And then I can't breathe until I see you're okay." She moved to the couch, sat beside him. "You can't protect me from everything." "I can try." "That's not living. That's just surviving in a different cage." "Then tell me how to stop being terrified every second you're out of my sight." She didn't have an answer for that. Didn't know how to fix the fear that lived in both of them now. The knowledge that safety was an illusion. That violence could find them anywhere. that love made you vulnerable in ways nothing else did. So instead, she took his hand and placed it on her belly where the baby was moving. Let him feel the life they were both trying to protect. Let the kicks and rolls remind them what they were fighting for. "We're okay," she whispered. "Right now, in this moment, we're okay. That's all we can ask for." His hand stayed on her belly until dawn. She fell asleep against his shoulder, woke to find him still there, still watching over them like a sentinel, still trying to make up for every father who'd ever walked away. Week 36 came with false labor again, stronger this time, painful. Lucian drove her to the hospital at 80 miles an hour, carried her through the doors when walking felt impossible, held her hand while doctors checked and confirmed it was still just practice. The baby getting ready, soon, any day now. "I'm not ready," she told Lucien in the hospital parking lot afterward. "I'm not ready to be someone's mother, to be responsible for an entire human being who will depend on me for everything. Nobody's ever ready. You just do it anyway. What if I'm terrible at it? What if I damage him? What if—" "You won't." His certainty was absolute. "You've been protecting him since before he existed, since Adrian, since the hotel, since every moment you chose to keep fighting instead of giving up. You're already a good mother. Birth is just making it official." "And you? Are you ready?" He was quiet for a long moment. "No, I'm terrified, but I'm showing up anyway. That's all being a parent is. Showing up scared and doing your best." "That's not very reassuring. It's honest." He started the car. "And honesty is all I've got to offer anymore." Week 38. Leora's entire body hurt. Her back, her feet, her hips. Everything preparing for what was coming. She couldn't sleep, couldn't get comfortable, spent most nights pacing the apartment trying to walk the pain away. Lucian started staying over. Not in her bed. On the couch. Close enough to hear if she needed him. Far enough to maintain the distance she'd insisted on. They'd never discussed what they were to each other, never labeled it, just existed in the space between friends and family and something more complicated than either. One night she woke to contractions, real ones, different from the practice, deeper, stronger, impossible to ignore. "Lucien," she called from the bedroom, tried to keep her voice calm, failed completely. "It's time." He was beside her in seconds, already dressed, shoes on, bag packed, like he'd been waiting for this moment. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." The drive to the hospital was a blur. She focused on breathing, on counting, on not panicking as her body did something she had no control over. Lucian's hand stayed on hers the whole way, solid, unshakable, the only steady thing in a world turning upside down. Labor was hell. 16 hours of pain that rewrote her understanding of suffering. Lucian stayed through all of it, held her hand until she thought she might break his fingers, let her scream at him when the pain got too bad and she needed someone to rage at, wiped sweat from her forehead, whispered encouragement even when she told him to shut up. When the baby finally came screaming into the world at 6:43 a.m., Leora had nothing left. She was hollowed out, broken open, remade into something new. They placed him on her chest, tiny, perfect, covered in vernix and blood and looking like the best thing she'd ever made. His eyes opened, dark, unfocused, searching. She started crying and couldn't stop. "Hi, baby," she whispered. "Hi, I'm your mom. I've been waiting so long to meet you." The baby's hand wrapped around her finger, squeezing, holding on like she was his entire world. Because she was. They were. Lucian stood beside the bed, staring at them both like he'd witnessed something sacred. His hand trembled as he reached out, touched the baby's head with one finger, reverent, careful. "He's perfect," Lucian whispered. "Absolutely perfect. You want to hold him?" His head snapped up. "I can?" "You're his father. Of course you can." The nurse helped transfer the baby into Lucian's arms. He held the tiny body like it might shatter, like he was holding the most precious thing in existence. Tears tracked down his face. He didn't bother wiping them away. "Hey, little man," he said softly. His voice broke. "I'm your dad, and I'm going to spend every day of my life making sure you know you're loved, you're wanted, you're enough exactly as you are." The baby stared up at him, then yawned, completely unimpressed with the emotional speech. Leora laughed through her tears. "What's his name?" the nurse asked. "For the birth certificate." Leora looked at Lucien. They'd discussed it, argued over it, finally agreed. Cassian Moretti. Moretti? The nurse looked confused. "I thought, we're doing the adoption paperwork today," Lucien said. Not a question, a statement of fact. "He's mine. Legally, officially, in every way that matters." The nurse nodded and made notes. Lucien kept holding Cassian like he'd never let go. Leora watched them together and felt something in her chest unlock. Not love. Not yet. But something close. Something that might become love given time and trust and 1,000 small moments of showing up. The hospital kept them for 2 days. Leora healed. Cassian ate and slept and learned what breathing outside the womb felt like. Lucien barely left the room. Brought her food, handled visitors, changed diapers like he'd been born knowing how. Grace came. Romano came. Even some of Lucien's men stopped by with gifts and awkward congratulations. It felt like family. Strange, unconventional, built from trauma and necessity rather than blood, but family nonetheless. When they finally went home, to her apartment, not his estate, it was the 3 of them. Leora, Cassian, Lucien, moving through the space together, learning the rhythm of bottles and diapers and sleepless nights, fighting over whose turn it was to handle the 3 a.m. feeding, collapsing beside each other from exhaustion and waking to do it again. 6 weeks passed in a blur, then 3 months, then 6. Lucien's businesses slowly transformed. The dangerous partnerships dissolved. The questionable operations shut down. Money got cleaner. His reputation shifted from criminal kingpin to ruthless businessman with a complicated past. Not perfect, but better. Legal. Safe. He moved into the apartment officially at the 4-month mark. Not because Leora asked, because it was stupid to maintain 2 residences when he was already there every night. They still had separate rooms, still maintained careful distance, but the walls were coming down. Slowly, brick by brick, Cassian grew, smiled, laughed, learned to recognize Lucien's voice and his mother's touch. He didn't know his biological father had been a coward and a thief. Didn't know the complicated history. Just knew the man who fed him and changed him and sang terrible off-key lullabies at 2 a.m. was Dad. And that was enough. One evening, when Cassian was 8 months old, Leora found Lucien in the nursery, just standing there watching the baby sleep. She moved beside him, slipped her hand into his. "You okay?" "Yeah, just thinking about how different my life would be if I hadn't pulled you off that hotel floor." "Better or worse?" "Better. So much better." He squeezed her hand. "I'd probably still be building an empire I didn't need, chasing power I didn't want, dying slowly inside and calling it success. And now? Now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." He turned to face her. "With people who matter more than anything else." She studied his face, the lines that had softened, the tension that had eased, the man who'd emerged from under all the violence and control. "I think I'm falling in love with you." His breath caught. "You think?" "I'm pretty sure, actually, but it's terrifying, so I'm hedging my bets." He laughed, quiet so he wouldn't wake Cassian. "I fell in love with you the night you climbed out a window while 7 months pregnant because you'd rather risk dying than be locked up." "That's insane." "Probably, but it's true." He cupped her face. "You're the bravest person I know, the strongest, the most stubborn, and I love you for all of it. Even the parts that fight with you? Especially those parts." She kissed him, soft, careful, testing. He kissed back like she was something precious, something worth fighting for, something worth becoming a better man for. They stood in the nursery until Cassian stirred. Then they moved together to pick him up, to soothe him, to be the parents they'd both needed and never had, to build something new from the broken pieces of everything that had tried to destroy them. Years later, standing in a garden watching Cassian chase butterflies with the fearless determination of a 4-year-old, Leora leaned against Lucien and thought about how strange life was. How the worst night of her life had somehow become the beginning of the best thing she'd ever found. "What are you thinking about?" Lucien asked. "How none of this should have worked. how we should have been a disaster. But we're not. No, we're not. She smiled. We're a family, strange and complicated and not what either of us planned, but ours. Cassian ran back to them, grabbed Lucien's hand. Dad, come see! There's a blue one! Lucien let himself be dragged toward the butterfly. Leora followed, watching them together, the man who'd been a monster and the boy who'd never know it, because all he'd ever see was a father who chose him, who stayed, who loved him unconditionally. She'd started as nobody, a maid cleaning hotel hallways while drowning in survival. She'd been used, abandoned, almost destroyed, but she'd survived, fought, refused to let the world break her. And in the end, she hadn't just survived. She'd won, not because of the money, not because of the man or the safety or any of the external things, but because she'd raised a son who would never doubt he was loved, never wonder if he was enough, never feel invisible the way she had for so many years. That was victory. That was everything. Cassian laughed as the butterfly landed on his hand. Lucien knelt beside him, pointing out the patterns on its wings. Leora captured the moment in her memory, stored it next to all the other perfect moments that had slowly built themselves into a life worth living. The rain that had hammered down that first night at the hotel had long since stopped. The storm had passed. And what remained was sunshine and butterflies and a family that shouldn't have worked but did anyway. Because sometimes the best things come from the worst circumstances. Sometimes redemption wears a tailored suit and has blood on its hands. Sometimes love arrives in a hospital hallway wrapped in violence and doesn't leave when things get complicated. Sometimes you just have to survive long enough to see what's waiting on the other side of hell. And for Leora Vale, no, Leora Moretti now, the name she'd taken when they'd married quietly 2 years ago, the other side of hell was paradise. Imperfect, messy, built on shaky foundations. But theirs. And that made it perfect enough.